Meet Gyumbo, a man who life seems to have left behind. Overweight, ugly, and completely broke, he has achieved nothing of note. His past is tragic, orphaned as a child, bullied relentlessly in school, and now harassed daily at his workplace. The only light in his dark life is his kind older sister. But fate has a cruel twist in store. When she is diagnosed with blood cancer, and they cannot afford the treatment, Gyumbo is pushed to the brink. With no other choice, he decides to sacrifice himself to claim life insurance money for her survival. But right at that critical moment, a mysterious stranger appears and hands him a magic wallet, an object that is about to change his destiny forever. So, without further delay, let's begin the story.
You are watching Slime Recap.
The story opens with Kwak Pil Hiop, a 57-year-old man recently released after serving time for first-degree murder. After years of hardship behind bars, his luck suddenly changed. He won $293,875,000. For the first time in his life, he felt pure joy. His face lit up with disbelief and happiness. But within just 3 hours, every last cent was gone. Now, Pil Hiop stands on the edge of a casino rooftop, a cigarette between his fingers, tears streaking down his face. He mutters curses to himself, his voice breaking until a man in a suit appears behind him. The stranger speaks calmly, saying Pil Hiop must be wishing he had quit while he was ahead. He calls him by name and reminds him of his wretched life, a man so estranged from his famous daughter that she has a restraining order against him, and so terrified of loan sharks that even death feels out of reach. The suited man told him he would give him enough money to completely change his life. He handed over a small money bag. Inside, it was an unbelievable amount of cash. The stranger explained that Pil Hiop could take out 1 million won every second, but warned that he had been doing so non-stop for the past 3 hours. He added that every time Pil Hiop withdrew money, something related to him decreased. Yet, Pil Hiop ignored the warning. Seeing the enormous sum, he lost his mind in excitement, laughing and jumping in madness. He screamed inside his head that he had made over 10 billion won in just 3 hours, and could finally enter the VIP room where his life would turn around. As time passed, his body began to change. The more money he pulled from the bag, the lighter he became. His body started to lose mass rapidly, yet he remained blind to it. He continued jumping in joy, unaware that his flesh was disappearing and his bones were showing through his skin. The man in the suit sighed as he watched Pil Hiop's foolish excitement. Even as his body shriveled to a skeletal form, Pil Hiop proudly thought to himself that he was still making 1 million won every second and was destined for greatness. Soon, he began coughing violently. His body had become thinner than a stick, and he collapsed among piles of money, barely alive. The suited man looked down at him with calm curiosity, commenting on his condition. He wondered aloud why Pil Hiop had kept taking money out until his weight had reached a life-threatening level. If he had only looked in the mirror once, he would have seen that his body weight decreased by the exact amount of money he withdrew. Smiling faintly, the man turned away, surrounded by the fluttering bills. Kwak Pil Hiop, despite being surrounded by wealth, died, buried beneath the very mountain of money he had craved. As the suited man walked away, he glanced at the cursed wallet and laughed softly, wondering who he should give it to next, and what that person would lose. The scene then shifted to a young boy named Cheon Gyumbo, 9 years old, standing as the chief mourner at his parents' funeral. He wept bitterly, yet spoke with determination to his older sister, Cheon Eunhwa, who was 17. He promised that he would grow up, go to Seoul National University, and make her live a good life. He reminded her that when their names were put together, they meant gold, silver, and treasure names their parents had given them, so they would grow up to be precious people in the world. He swore he would succeed and make her rich. Eunhwa, though crying, smiled and hugged her younger brother tightly. She thanked him, saying he was speaking the words she should have said instead. She admired her kind brother and wondered what kind of wonderful man he would grow up to be. But as years passed, contrary to her expectations, Gyumbo changed harshly. At 17, he looked nothing like the boy he once was. His body grew large, resembling a hippopotamus. All he did was eat and sleep. At school, 2 bullies named Jun and Jin tormented him cruelly. They stuffed a basketball on one side of his chest and a football on the other, making him dress and pose like a girl. His awkward appearance made him look like a clown. The bullies laughed uncontrollably, calling him a fat ghost as they snapped pictures of his humiliation. Inside his mind, Gyumbo cursed them furiously. He called them scum and perverts who enjoyed tormenting others and swore he would never forgive them. Just then, his crush, a girl named Shin-ae, appeared. Angrily, she confronted Jun for borrowing her pouch, demanding he return it and stop bullying people. June laughed mockingly, holding her pouch high, daring her to take it back. Gyumbo watched in silent awe, his heart pounding. He thought about how Shin-ae had come to save him again, admiring her beauty and kind heart. When June patted her head, Gyumbo's anger boiled inside. He thought about how dare that bastard touch her like that, but decided to let it slide for now. He swore that one day he would prove himself. He cursed Jun and Jin in his thoughts, calling them trash. He promised himself that while they would be stuck working in dirty uniforms, he would be walking beneath cherry blossoms with Shin-ae on a university campus. He imagined Shin-ae introducing him to her family, and, in his fantasy, even his sister would fall for him at first sight. 8 years passed. Gyumbo, now 25, worked as a simple production worker. During his break, he sipped coffee and smoked, while scrolling through Shin-ae's Instagram. He saw pictures of her traveling with June to Bali, staying in a private villa filled with romantic settings, his eyes filled with anger and sorrow. He thought bitterly about how she was traveling abroad with another man. He had suspected she might have a boyfriend but refused to believe it. Now it was clear, and it was young Jun of all people. His heart ached as he thought about how deeply he had loved her. Just then, his phone buzzed with a message from his sister, Manhwa. She asked if he wanted to eat chicken tonight. He replied, asking what the occasion was, and she happily texted back that she had been promoted to supervisor. He congratulated her warmly. But his small moment of peace was shattered when his factory boss hit him hard on the back of his head, yelling that break time had ended ages ago and scolding him for staring at his phone. Gyumbo quietly followed, his mind still lost in thoughts. He tried to comfort himself, thinking that even if he wasn't good at dating, life would get better. His sister's promotion made him feel hopeful. If he kept working hard, raised his salary, and stayed healthy, maybe one day he could travel abroad and live like everyone else. He believed sunny days would eventually come, but a few days later, his world collapsed. His sister suddenly fell ill, and he rushed her to the hospital. The doctor's words struck him like lightning. Manhwa had blood cancer, leukemia. The doctor explained that they would determine the exact type after tests, but for now, she had to be hospitalized. Tears streamed down Jumbo's face as he tried to process it. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. He had only brought her because she fainted from heatstroke, and now they were talking about cancer. The world, he thought, was not just unfair, it was cruel. His sister had just been promoted, and she had been so happy. Now she lay in pain, pitiful and broken. Standing outside her hospital room, Gyumbo realized the truth of life. No matter how hard one tried, those who weren't meant to succeed never would. The hopeful future people dreamed of was a privilege only the lucky possessed from the start. He felt that he and his sister were born without even that kind of luck. Instead of struggling, he thought, he should have lived doing whatever he wanted. He went to visit Manhwa in her hospital room. She greeted him weakly, apologizing for the expensive bills. Gyumbo wept, telling her there was no need to apologize and feeling even sorrier himself. Inside, he thought that if he had known she would get such a terminal illness, he would have let her live freely and do everything she desired with the money he earned. Later, on his way home by subway, life reminded him again of his position. A police officer hit him with a baton, pushing him aside to take a seat. Gyumbo sat in the crowded subway, barely finding space on a small seat. To distract himself from the pain and depression, he opened his phone and scrolled through social media. His account showed 0 followers and 0 following, yet his search list was filled with the IDs of old classmates from middle and high school. He often found their profiles while browsing, but never had the courage to follow them, choosing instead to look silently from afar. He saw photos of his classmates who had once failed college entrance exams, but were now studying abroad with their parents' money. Some flaunted their beautiful girlfriends, celebrating success after passing civil service exams and traveling across Europe before even getting appointed. Others were taking over their family businesses and being called bosses in their 20s. He saw people driving foreign cars, getting married, and living in newlywed homes gifted by their parents. Photos of babies, family dinners, vacations abroad, luxury hotels, omakase restaurants, and branded goods filled the screen. Every image reflected a luxurious lifestyle that he and his sister could never have. While scrolling, his eyes stopped at a photo of a woman known online as Princess Kwon Changwi. Her beauty glowed under the sun as she posed in a bikini on a sea beach, showing off her curvy figure. He stared at the image, thinking how distant and unreachable that kind of life was for him. Zooming in on her photo, he watched like a pervert, unaware that a woman nearby had noticed him and left with disgust. Trying to share his amusement, he showed the sexy photo to the old police officer sitting next to him. The officer looked at it too, entertained and unbothered, revealing his own hidden indulgence. But as the screen went dark, reality struck Guillaume again. He realized he had opened social media to forget his depression, but had ended up facing the harsh truth of his miserable life even more directly. He knew he could never live an ordinary, peaceful life like others. His mental state began to crumble as he grabbed his head in frustration. After reaching home, he sat alone, drinking heavily and eating snacks. He mumbled to himself while scrolling through information about his sister's illness, realizing that blood cancer was a high-cost disease requiring expensive treatment. A bone marrow transplant alone would cost tens of millions of won. Most of their salaries had gone toward paying off their late parents' loan shark debts, leaving them with no savings. His sister's hospitalization meant she couldn't work, and he would now have to cover all the hospital bills, daily expenses, and rent interest with only his meager salary. Tears fell from his eyes as he muttered that there seemed to be no choice but to die. The insurance his sister had taken in his name had been active for over 2 years, meaning the insurance money would be paid even if he died. He cursed his foolish sister for buying the policy for him instead of herself. He knew her selfless nature would stop her from receiving proper treatment because of the medical expenses, so he decided he would die instead, so she could at least get treatment without worrying about money. As he continued to drink, a voice suddenly echoed in front of him, asking if he had the courage to die. Shocked, Guillaume dropped his beer and looked up at the stranger who stood before him. The stranger's calm tone carried weight as he spoke about how wasteful it was to simply live and die meaninglessly, suggesting that there were surely many things Guillaume still wanted to do. Guillaume adjusted his glasses, nervously asking who the man was. The stranger smiled confidently and addressed him by name, saying that he appeared only before those who desperately needed money. He told him he would now give him enough money to completely change his life. Guillaume froze in disbelief, wondering who this person was and why he would give him money. More importantly, he questioned how this stranger had entered his locked home. He thought perhaps he had been too distracted and forgot to lock the door, but then remembered doing it for sure. The man didn't look suspicious at all. His neatly styled hair looked like it was managed at an expensive salon. His perfectly tailored suit fit his body type flawlessly, and his clear skin and confident expression gave him the aura of a wealthy man. Guillaume wondered if this was some rich man doing charity for fun. The thought of being exploited angered him. He assumed it must be for a YouTube video, one of those poverty porn contents where rich people acted superior while handing out a few pennies to the poor for views. He yelled in frustration, accusing the man of trying to buy his family's suffering for pocket change. He shouted, asking if the man could give him 1 billion won, or even 10 billion won if he asked for it. His anger boiled over as he struck the stranger, but the man only smiled calmly and said that he could indeed give that much. Placing his hand on Guillaume's shoulder, he leaned closer with a sly smile, saying that even 1 or 10 billion wouldn't be enough. He reminded Guillaume that with money, he could save his sick sister and do everything he had postponed, all the things he had put off until someday or later. However, he said that there would be conditions, depending entirely on Guillaume's mindset. Confused, Guillaume repeated the word mindset, wondering what he meant. He thought back to all the years he had lived, believing in false hope, imagining himself walking on a university campus with Shin-A under blooming cherry blossoms. He realized that his optimistic thinking had been meaningless. Acknowledging his mistake, Guillaume said he had been living with the wrong mindset, trapped in a loop of blind optimism that promised better days which never came. He brushed the man's hand off his shoulder and said that not knowing the truth about that mindset had led him here. With the right mindset, he said, there was nothing one couldn't earn, whether 1 billion or 10 billion. That, he assumed, was the stranger's message. He broke down in tears, shouting that the man was blaming him for being poor. He cried that he too once believed that if he worked hard, he would live well someday. But reality was cruel. Some people were simply born into wealth, inheriting billions the moment they left the womb, becoming business heirs in Gangnam without reading a single book. Money allowed them to pass exams, cheat systems, and study abroad without effort. He ranted that there was nothing wrong with not going to college, but society rewarded only those born lucky. At 20, the rich drove foreign cars, dated freely, and were given businesses by their parents, earning titles like boss. For the poor, survival itself required beauty or talent, becoming celebrities, streamers, or marrying into wealth just to climb the social ladder. In this world, mindset and effort were useless. Life was determined purely by luck the moment one was born. Exhausted, Guillaume sank to the floor, crying uncontrollably. The stranger watched him silently, his hand in his pocket, maintaining his composed demeanor. With a sly smirk, he told Gyumbo to think of meeting him as the greatest fortune of his lifetime. Leaning closer, he said that all Gyumbo needed was the mindset to bet his life on this opportunity. He promised money that could change his future completely, and so, at the edge of despair, with nowhere left to turn and no hope remaining, Chon Gyumbo met the one known as the King of Money. Gyumbo froze, stunned by the thought that his future could change and that money might save his sick sister and allow him to do everything he wanted. Gyumbo asked the King of Money about limits, wondering if unlimited money would be offered. The King of Money acknowledged Gyumbo's sharpness and confirmed that unlimited money was unnecessary to change a life. The king then introduced the object to Gyumbo while handing over a money bag, explaining that the little creature was called the wallet beast. The king explained that the amount Mr. Cheon Gumbo could take from the wallet beast at once was 1 million won. Gumbo reacted in shock at the notion of 1 million won, unable to believe it. The King of Money explained that every second, 1 million won could be taken from the wallet beast from the moment Mr. Cheon Gyumbo owned it. He explained that the wallet beast's limit would increase by 1 million won every second. After 10 seconds, the limit would be 10 million won. After 1 minute, the limit would reach 60 million won. To prove it, the king pulled money from the bag, filling the entire house with cash. The King of Money asked what the wallet beast's limit would be after 24 hours had passed. Seeing so much money left, Gyumbo utterly shocked. The king teased Gyumbo for being slow at mental math and suggested that Gyumbo would be satisfied with that limit. He emphasized that, most importantly, the money taken from the wallet beast had no tax issues and would not trigger investigations into the source of funds for purchases. He challenged belief, saying that if Gyumbo could not trust what he saw with his own eyes, nothing more could be done. The king produced even more money from the bag. Gyumbo then asked about the condition the king had mentioned earlier, reminding him that there was a condition. The king confirmed that nothing in the world is free and explained the rule clearly. He said that anytime, anywhere, as much as desired, money could be taken from the wallet beast, but the amount taken would cause something related to Mr. Cheon Gumbo to decrease. Gyumbo pressed for clarification about what something meant. The king countered with a taunting suggestion to try withdrawing hundreds of billions, implying danger and irresponsibility. The king then outlined 3 cases in which money could no longer be taken from the wallet beast. First, when something related to Mr. Cheon Gumbo kept decreasing and eventually disappeared completely. Second, when no money is taken from the wallet beast for 30 days, and the wallet beast's reason for existence vanishes. Third, in the event of transfer, abandonment, death, or any complete relinquishment of ownership of the wallet beast. The king declared the choice simple and urged decision time. He stated that the moment Gyumbo owned the wallet beast, he would gain the opportunity to obtain enormous wealth. In exchange, something related to Mr. Cheon Gumbo would be lost. Finally, the king questioned, with quiet curiosity, whether Mr. Cheon Gumbo could truly become happy even after such an exchange. Gyumbo thought to himself that whether he died and left his sister the life insurance money, or died because his lifespan decreased each time he spent money, it would be the same either way. There was absolutely no reason to refuse. Desperation filled his heart as he realized he needed money. He reached out and took the money bag from the King of Money's hand. A blinding light flashed, and in an instant, the King of Money vanished without a trace. Gumbo fell to the floor, his body trembling as he clutched the mysterious bag. Holding the bag tightly, he stared at it in disbelief, thinking it was impossible and that it had to be a lie. When he opened the wallet and looked inside, it appeared completely empty. But when he imagined a specific amount and reached his hand inside, that exact number of bundles of money appeared. He was stunned as piles of cash poured out even when he turned the wallet upside down. Within seconds, he had instantly received 65 million won. A chill ran down his spine as he stared at the fortune, wondering how much of his life had decreased for 65 million won. Deep down, he already knew the answer. It had been obvious all along. The fact that the mysterious man appeared the very moment he decided to die had been the hint. The King of Money gave him money equal to the life he was about to throw away. It became clear that his life would decrease as much as he spent money. He laughed bitterly, realizing that it didn't matter anymore. He was just a mortal, living a fleeting moment. With this wallet, he decided he would save his sister and do everything he wanted before he died. Emotion welled up in his chest as he stared at the bag with mixed feelings of hope and fear. While inspecting the bag, he noticed 2 small dots on it and wondered what those dot-like stains were, thinking something might have gotten on it while taking out money. But then he realized those dots were eyes slowly opening and closing. The bag was alive. Terror filled him as he screamed and threw it away, horrified by what he had just witnessed. The next day arrived. Gyumbo went to his part-time job, carrying the mysterious money bag with him. He placed it nearby and spoke softly, commenting that it didn't look like it wanted to drink water and that it had been starving since yesterday. He apologized to it, calling it Wallet-chan, and said he felt bad leaving it alone at home. He decided that at least during his lunch break, it should get some fresh air outside. Behind him, his boss suddenly spoke, asking if he was lonely. Startled, Gumbo turned quickly. His boss, irritated, shouted that Gumbo had finally lost it. The crazy man was now talking to a coin purse. Gumbo panicked, stuttering that it wasn't a coin purse and that his boss couldn't see the cute, bright eyes. But to his boss, there were no eyes, only a simple bag. Frustration twisted his boss's expression as he muttered that he must not have beaten Gumbo enough. Rage filled his voice as he threatened to beat him until he came to his senses. The blows came hard, the boss shouting repeatedly for him to wake up, yelling that if he had nothing to do, he should go buy cigarettes. The pain brought back old memories, times when his boss had beaten him without reason, when he had been humiliated for eating too much or simply existing. The memories burned inside him, and his anger rose. As his boss swung again, Gyumbo moved instinctively, dodging the attack. The boss glared, surprised that Gyumbo had dared to avoid the hit. But before he could react further, Gumbo slapped him across the face with all his strength. The sharp sound echoed through the workplace. Everyone around them froze, shocked by what they had just seen. Gumbo stood firm, his face calm yet burning with years of pent-up frustration. He declared that he had been waiting for this day. He pulled a folded paper from his pocket and wrote on it, explaining that he had been carrying it for no reason until now, but finally, he had a purpose. The words written on the paper were clear: countersue for workplace harassment and resignation letter. He threw the letter straight at his boss's face. The man stood speechless, his eyes wide, mumbling in disbelief. Gumbo smirked and walked away with confidence. His boss stuttered, asking if he had really won first place, but Gyumbo didn't look back. As he walked out of the workplace, he thought proudly that starting today, he was unemployed. It was what he had hoped and wished for all this time. Now, he would enjoy the life of a rich, unemployed man. Later, Gyumbo found himself stepping into a luxurious 5-star hotel for the first time in his life. Around him, gold-digging women chatted and laughed over fancy meals, gossiping and glittering clothes. Sitting among them, Gyumbo looked around with a satisfied smile. It was his first time entering a place like this, and today, in that shining hall of wealth and luxury, he smiled as if he had finally entered a new world. Gumbo had gone to a 5-star hotel and brought a large amount of costly and delicious food, all for his sick sister who was admitted to the hospital. When his sister, Manhwa, saw the food, she was shocked, staring in disbelief at the luxurious spread before her. She could not understand what all this was. Gumbo told her that he had heard she needed to eat well during chemotherapy. Since she liked sushi, he had bought some. He explained that when he went to the store, the young women there were eating it so deliciously that he could not resist. He urged her to eat it quickly while it was still fresh. Yunhua looked at the food with wide eyes, realizing it looked very expensive. She questioned where he had gotten the money, estimating that the food clearly cost over 30,000 won. Gumbo thought to himself that 30,000 won was far too low. The hotel sushi actually cost 50 times more than that. He knew his sister had no idea since she had only ever eaten discount mart sushi her whole life. Yunhua continued, saying that he should be at work right now. She asked if he had skipped work and noticed his glasses looked strange. Gumbo whispered that if she acted recklessly, how could he rest easy in the hospital? He quickly denied skipping work and told her he had actually won first place in the lottery. Yunhua, shocked, asked if it was true. Gumbo assured her it was, showing his phone where a message displayed that he had won first place. He explained that he had taken sick leave and had just returned from collecting the prize money. A patient sitting nearby choked on her juice in shock after overhearing them. Yunhua stared at the screen, astonished, repeating in disbelief that he had really won first place. She began counting in amazement: 100, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, 10 million, 100 million, and then screamed in disbelief that it was billions. She could not believe it, thinking that when God gives, he gives in abundance. Meanwhile, Gumbo knew the truth. It was a fake lottery app called Experience Lotto First Place. He was relieved that his sister had been easily fooled. He told her that since things were like this, they should eat first and think of it as a small celebration party. Yunhua started crying softly, sobbing like a child, and admitted that she had been so scared. She was terrified of being sick, afraid of the chemotherapy side effects, and even more frightened about what would happen to Gyumbo if she died first and left him alone. But what truly terrified her was hearing how expensive leukemia treatment could be. She worried she might be blocking her brother's future, fearing they would have to use the savings he had worked hard to build for his own future just to pay hospital bills. She felt relieved that would not be necessary now. Gyumbo looked at her with emotion, thinking how impossible his sister was, still worrying about him first even in this condition. He drank his water and told her to stop crying and eat. Yunhua nodded but admitted she could not eat raw food because of chemotherapy. In the end, she shared the expensive food with the other patients in the same hospital room. The others thanked her sincerely, happy to enjoy luxurious food because of her. Soon after, a doctor entered the room and informed Yunhua that her request for a private room had been approved. Everything was ready, and she could move in now. When Yunhua saw the private room, she was completely shocked. The room was so clean and grand that she wondered if it was really part of a hospital or a hotel. Gumbo smiled and told her that from now on, she would receive treatment there. Yunhua looked at him angrily, surprised by the extravagance. But Gyumbo calmly explained that since her white blood cell count was low, she was vulnerable to infection, so it was safer for her to stay in a VIP room away from others. When she pointed out that her previous ward was already sterile, he quickly said he needed to go buy glasses and left, waving goodbye. Yunhua stood there, still shocked by everything. After leaving the hospital, Gyumbo went to the Gucci store. As soon as he entered, he saw someone he never wanted to see again, Jin Il-sok, the same bully who used to torment him during school days. Jin worked there now. He looked at Gyumbo with a mocking smile, calling him by his old nickname, and laughing that he had not changed at all since their school days. Gyumbo froze in disbelief, recognizing him immediately, his mind filled with anger and frustration. That bastard. Jin Il-sok, the same guy who used to be obsessed with Gucci back then, was now actually working at a Gucci store. He could not believe fate was playing such cruel jokes on him. Jin continued to mock him, asking what he was doing at a department store and sarcastically telling him to go upstairs if he wanted to use the bathroom. Gyumbo tried to explain that he was there to buy glasses and clothes, saying he had heard the place was expensive. Jin burst into loud laughter, mocking that it was not somewhere a person like him could afford. A junior worker nearby tried to stop him, saying that he was going too far. Jin glared and told the junior to shut up and do his job properly. He then bragged that Gyumbo used to be his lackey in high school and laughed, saying he was the famous beggar of their school. Gyumbo quietly said that he did have money. Jin smirked at him. Then he dressed Gyumbo in a full Gucci outfit, laughing as he adjusted his clothes, saying it suited him perfectly. Another senior worker was helping fix Gyumbo's pants when Jin scolded him for blocking the camera. He wanted to take pictures. As he clicked photos, Jin continued to mock, saying that Gyumbo looked classy, dressed in Gucci from head to toe. He bragged about his own styling skills, saying that Gyumbo could just wear it and pay later. Inside, Jin was secretly plotting. He thought there were new luxury products he wanted to buy, and this was the perfect chance. He grinned to himself, planning to milk this situation for all it was worth. In his mind, he laughed that Cheon Fatty looked awesome, and he would drain him completely while earning some sales incentive for himself. Gumbo finally agreed to buy the clothes, saying he would take them. Jin slapped him on the back, excitedly, laughing and praising his good decision. He mockingly called him generous as always, pretending to correct himself mid-sentence. Jin told him to sit on the sofa for a moment, but Gyumbo calmly said he would not buy from Jin. Instead, he would buy from the other salesperson. Jin was taken aback, asking what he meant. Gyumbo explained that it was up to the buyer to decide from whom they wished to purchase. He added that he would be coming to this store often from now on, and if Jin planned to act friendly every time, it would be uncomfortable. He made it clear he would not buy from him, only from that person. He then turned to the junior worker and asked if he could also look at women's clothes. The worker, surprised, guided him politely and asked if he would be wearing them himself. Gyumbo simply questioned back if he would. Jin clenched his wrist tightly, anger building up inside him. Soon after, Jin took pictures of Gyumbo and sent them to Jun, writing that Cheon Fatty had come to their store and was spending like crazy, thinking he must have won the lottery. Jun laughed, calling Jin crazy, and saying that even if he was bored, he should not be sending pictures and posting things like that. At that same time, Shin-A noticed Jun looking at his phone during their anniversary dinner and complained that he was not paying attention. It became clear that it was their first anniversary, and the two were sitting in a luxurious 5-star hotel restaurant. Jun laughed awkwardly and showed her the picture Jin had sent, explaining that it was something ridiculous. He pointed out that it was Cheon Fatty from their school days. Just then, Gyumbo appeared behind them, recognizing Jun and Shin-A. He greeted them both cheerfully, recalling their names with exaggerated familiarity. He remembered Shin-A as the goddess from school, smiling warmly as he spoke. Shin-A smiled back politely. Jun awkwardly said it was quite a coincidence, but Gyumbo revealed it was not coincidental at all. After leaving the department store earlier, he had searched on Star for trendy restaurants. There he found a post uploaded by Goddess Shin-A. In other words, he had come here on purpose. Jun watched him carefully, wondering if this fatty had truly won the lottery. If he had bought all that from Jin Il-suk's store, then maybe it was not fake. Shin-A looked at him, surprised at how much he had changed since they last met. Gyumbo casually replied that he did not think he had changed much, then noticed it was their first anniversary and congratulated them warmly. Shin-A smiled shyly, amused by his tone. But Gyumbo leaned closer to Jun and whispered mockingly that Jun had gotten cheap since the last time he saw him. He criticized him for ordering single items on his first anniversary, calling it tacky, and said he should at least have ordered a full-course meal. He revealed he had studied the menu earlier and pointed out that the course came with both steak and lobster, while the single steak order did not include lobster. Jun's anger started to rise. Gyumbo noticed their wine glasses and mocked him again, saying he had ordered wine by the glass instead of a bottle. He claimed he could tell from the smell that it was cheap wine. Enraged, Jun grabbed Gyumbo by the collar and shouted that the loser was acting cocky after a few years, and asked if he wanted to be reminded of the beatings he used to get. Gyumbo's expression turned cold as he warned Jun to keep his hands to himself. He said the clothes were new, bought just today, and asked if Jun could handle the cost if they got stretched. Shin-A, frustrated, stood up and told them both to stop. She scolded Jun, saying she absolutely hated violence. Gyumbo calmly told her to wait for a moment. He then called for the waiter and purchased an expensive vintage wine bottle. Turning to Shin-A, he told her that back in school, when he was being bullied, she had helped him. He said this was his way of repaying her kindness, expressing his gratitude for what she had done back then. Shin-A looked flustered and said it was unnecessary, but Gyumbo refused to accept her refusal. He smiled and said he would not disturb their date any longer, wishing them well as he left. Shin-A thanked him softly. Gyumbo walked away to make the payment. Shin-A, smiling brightly, turned to Jun and said it was amazing. She laughed that they had actually been trying to save on wine, so this had worked out perfectly for them. Jun slammed his hand on the table in anger, shouting that the fatty was treating him like a beggar. He demanded that the waiter charge the wine to his card instead, yelling that he would not drink something disgusting coming from that man. The restaurant staff hesitated and said that the bottle cost 3.5 million won, asking if he was sure. Gyumbo turned back and told Jun not to overdo it. He said he had already seen his financial situation clearly from the table earlier. Then he reminded him of something he had said in the past. The scene shifted to their school days. Jun was seen confiscating Gyumbo's headphones, mocking him, and saying he was acting up. Gyumbo had tried to explain that his sister had bought them as a birthday present. But Jun had told him to live within his means and use wired earphones instead. In the present, Gyumbo calmly told him the same thing, to live within his means, and just mooch wine from Shin-A. He stated that he had bought that wine for her and asked the waiter to put it on his card. Jun clenched his fist tightly, unable to reply. Later, Gyumbo sat down to eat. He took a bite and praised the food, saying it was as expected awesome. He thought that after all, nothing compared to cold pork belly, hotel sushi, steak, or lobster, could not beat it. He reflected on how he used to eat so little because he was always short on money, but today, he was determined to eat until he burst. As he enjoyed his food, he looked at his phone and called out to Lado-chan. He paused suddenly, noticing something strange. Lado-chan had a small protrusion on its side. He stared closely, realizing it looked like a wing. He was startled, wondering why wings had suddenly appeared. He could hardly believe it. The more money he withdrew, the more Lado-chan seemed to evolve. Gyumbo reflected on the strange evolution of Lado-chan. Its original form, when not a single penny had been taken out, had been nothing more than an inanimate object. But after withdrawing 65 million won, the creature had grown eyes and begun to move. Now it even had wings. He tried to recall how much money had been withdrawn by the time those wings appeared, remembering that he had counted up to 253 million won. He realized he had been so blinded by money that he hadn't noticed the obvious truth. The more Lado-chan evolved, the more his own life decreased. Yet he brushed the thought aside. It didn't matter, he told himself. He already knew this from the start. Life was lived only once, and he would do everything he wanted before dying. That day, His first desire was to eat cold pork belly until he burst, but the food burned as he cooked, leaving him frustrated. Returning home, Gumbo stepped on the weighing scale. His weight was no less than that of a hippopotamus. The machine itself looked ready to break from his size. He muttered to himself in disbelief, realizing that his weight had increased so much in just one day. After devouring pork belly like a madman, he had reached a record-breaking weight. He admitted to himself that at this rate, he would die of high cholesterol before anything else. Picking up Lotto Chan in his hand, he declared that he couldn't die yet. He convinced himself he needed to manage his health, because there were still countless things he wanted to do. That night, he looked forward to the next day. He planned to visit a seafood buffet that cost 300,000 won per person. He also wanted to try the famous mango bingsu that cost over 40,000 won. It was his first time in life experiencing such freedom. The next morning, the now chubby Gyumbo continued to sleep soundly. When he finally woke up, he panicked, thinking he was late for work. He wondered why his alarm hadn't rung, then remembered that he had quit his job. With Lotto Chan, he now had unlimited money. Smiling, he greeted Lotto Chan, asking it to take care of him again for the day. Gyumbo visited a barber shop, where he got a fresh haircut and facial. Then he went shopping at the mall, buying stylish clothes, branded shoes, socks, and a new purse. He thought about how it had been the first time in years he had enjoyed a weekday without school or work. He recalled how he had thrown his resignation letter at the boss he once feared, quitting without hesitation. He remembered the times he used to panic when missing the subway, and how he would break into a cold sweat over being 10 minutes late. Now, because he had piles of money, the fear of the company no longer existed. He began to understand why rich people carried such confidence in everything they did. Even walking through Cheongdam-dong, a place that once made him feel alienated, now felt natural. The people he used to feel intimidated by no longer scared him. He walked among them with pride and ease. A luxurious car stopped nearby, and a stunning woman stepped out. Her curvy figure left Gyumbo speechless. He was overwhelmed, believing she must be an idol. The sight felt unreal, as though he had front-row access to beauty itself. He wondered what kind of event could be happening for such a person to appear. When she walked into the building ahead, Gyumbo noticed a poster and snapped out of his thoughts. He scolded himself internally, telling himself not to be impure. He reminded himself not to waste his first time, and that pure love was always best. Just then, another woman with blonde hair approached him, smiling softly. Her beauty stunned him. She complimented his style and asked if he had time. Shocked, Gyumbo realized this was the kind of encounter he had only heard about in actual pickup. He recognized the transformation money had brought him. His hairstyle, groomed face, Gucci frames, confident attitude, and expensive fashion had all been shaped by wealth. Because he had money, beautiful women now came to him naturally. Excited, he agreed eagerly, saying he had plenty of time. The woman then lifted a camera in front of him and commented on his look, estimating that his outfit must cost over 10 million won. She asked to know the total amount of his coordinated attire. Gumbo stuttered, saying he didn't remember since he bought everything without checking prices. The woman admired his casual attitude, calling it the true scent of a rich person. She joked that rich people wore fur in summer, which explained his long sleeves. Gyumbo, wanting to prove his authenticity, mentioned that he still had the receipts as proof his items were not fake. She agreed that having department store receipts was proof of genuine luxury, and offered to calculate the total amount for him. The scene ended there. Later, Gyumbo sat at home, scrolling through YouTube shorts. He found the same woman's video featuring him, where she listed the prices of his outfit in detail. Gucci optical frame, 680,000 won. Gucci jacquard necktie, 340,000 won. Tom Brown cardigan, 2,500,000 won. Louis Vuitton silk shirt, 2,550,000 won. Prada leather clutch, 3,100,000 won. Balenciaga briefs, 320,000 won. Chrome Hearts short denim, 6,980,000 won. Dolce & Gabbana cotton socks, 220,000 won. Miu Miu suede sneakers, 1,530,000 won. The total came to 18,220,000 won. In the video, Gyumbo even made Naruto-style hand signs, looking like a piggy version of the character. He was amazed to see how quickly the video had gone viral within a single day. Soon after, he received a message on Instagram. The sender introduced themselves as a 25-year-old named Cheon-ga, 301, explaining a tragic story. Their parents had divorced due to domestic violence. Their mother had fallen into debt and lost their home, and now she lay hospitalized after a brain hemorrhage. Their father had gone blind from gambling addiction and couldn't even find the bathroom without help. The sender had been scammed in cryptocurrency, becoming a credit defaulter. They begged for help, asking for 50 million won, promising to repay 80 million within the year, and pleading for mercy to save their family. Gyumbo thought about how celebrities often received hundreds of such messages asking to borrow money. He realized that when people had asked for his star ID earlier, they truly thought he was famous. He checked his inbox and saw many similar messages from strangers. He regretted giving out his lurking account and admitted to himself that this sudden public attention felt overwhelming. He decided he should probably delete the account. Just then, a new message appeared from someone named Princess Rin. As he read her name, his drink caught in his throat. It was the real Princess Rin, the school's representative goddess. From the moment she entered as a freshman, she had been adored by seniors and respected by delinquents. Her beauty and presence had conquered the entire school. Gyumbo couldn't believe that someone like her would message him. They had never even spoken during school days. Still, he decided to reply. He sent her a greeting, mentioning it had been a long time. To his shock, she read it immediately and replied, saying he hadn't changed. The realization that Princess Rin remembered him left him trembling. He felt as though he were living in a scene from a romance drama, where two people who barely knew each other in school reunited after graduation. Just then, his doorbell rang. Thinking it was a delivery, he rushed to the door, still chatting with Rin and eating pig's feet. But when he opened the door, there was no one there, no delivery, no package, nothing. Confused, he stood in silence, not knowing what to make of it. Jin and June had actually come to his house. Gyumbo could not believe they had shown up at his door. Jin barged into the house, explaining that Gyumbo had made a department store membership card to accumulate points. Jin ordered them not to make a scene and told them to go inside because they had a lot to talk about. Then they slammed the door shut. June immediately complained about the mess in the house and asked if Gyumbo was moving soon. Jin remarked that the place smelled like a warehouse. Gyumbo recognized the cowardly bastards and sensed a surprise attack on his home base. Seeing them arrive together, he assumed they were planning revenge for yesterday. June and Jin sneered at the house, mocking it as a parasite's home. They traded insults about the place, comparing it to an old woman's house. Gyumbo glanced at Lado-chan and realized it seemed like an ordinary inanimate object to everyone else except him. He knew this was an emergency and quietly picked Lado-chan up. Holding it close, he whispered for it to wait a moment while he steadied himself. June and Jin approached and reminded him that they had something to talk about. Gyumbo accepted the confrontation with a new resolve. He declared that he was no longer the loser Chun Gyumbo he used to be. He vowed to use money to battle back against whatever they planned. The thought was fierce and steady in him. Come on. To his shock, June and Jin dropped to their knees in front of him and began to bargain. June framed the request as an investment and asked for 50 million won each, 100 million total, promising to pay back 120 million in a year, with 10 million interest each. Jin chimed in agreement. June insisted it was not because they lacked ability. Jin muttered that they had been scammed by stock fraudsters. Jun smacked Jin for the comment and scolded him for speaking out of turn. Gyumbo was stunned to see Yang A-jun and Jin Il-sok kneeling before him. Jun argued that more capital would increase return rates and presented this as an opportunity gifted by fate after their coincidence. He urged Gyumbo to forget the past and get along from now on. Jin quickly agreed to the plan. June explained that the world worked by the haves giving to the have-nots, framing the loan as a natural order. Memories flooded Gyumbo. He recalled the cruel past when Jun and Jin took his money, struck him, and demanded compliance. He remembered being forced to hand over cash for trivial reasons. He had once told them the money was for his sister's birthday present, only to be mocked and told to shut up. They had called him annoying and stubborn for not giving in. June scoffed at those without, saying those who have should not act cocky, and that the poor ought to crawl on their own. Gyumbo snapped. He turned their logic back on them and challenged their right to demand charity. Before deciding whether to lend them money, he demanded the right to land one punch each. June whispered to Jin to play it cool and not retaliate too forcefully, warning that Gyumbo's punches were weak. Jin begged Gyumbo not to hit his face because he had to go to work, suggesting that a single hit would settle things. Gyumbo swung, his fist connected with Jin's stomach, and Jin went flying backwards, collapsing to the floor. June watched aghast at the dramatic fall. Gyumbo believed the fainting was an act and thought Jin was pretending to be unconscious to milk sympathy for 50 million. He cursed the bastard who would sell his soul for money and resolved he could not lose either. Unknown to Gyumbo, the hit had landed harder than he intended. Jin was genuinely out cold on the floor. Jun, thinking his own face was sturdy, invited Gyumbo to hit him anywhere. Gyumbo delivered a powerful blow to Jun's nose, and Jun briefly blacked out as his senses flickered. The scene shifted to the hospital. Gyumbo called his sister Eunhwa, while chaos swirled around him. Eunhwa reassured him not to worry, and told him to do what he needed to do. Her workplace colleagues stopped by, and chatted cheerfully, teasing about her reliable, money-making brother. They congratulated her on having such a brother, and remarked on the luxurious room she now had. They urged her to get better soon for her brother's sake, noting she couldn't just stay in the hospital at such a pretty age. Eunhwa thanked them politely. Her colleagues then mentioned another patient, Ji-hye, who had also been diagnosed with leukemia and had quit last year because of the disease. They speculated about environmental pollution or stress as possible causes, and agreed it was a terrible illness for someone so young. Hearing this, Eunhwa grew despondent and worried silently. After the call with his sister, Gyumbo still could not calm down. He thought about Princess Rin asking to meet him and realized he had never been alone with another woman outside of blood relatives. The idea made him suddenly self-conscious and eager to present himself well. Then someone gently poked his cheek from beside him. It was Princess Jurin herself, and she looked stunning and sexy. Princess Rin's unexpected physical contact left Gyumbo shocked and breathless. Princess Rin noted that he had not eaten and suggested they eat first. Gyumbo panicked for a moment, having blanked out, then recovered and agreed. Princess Jurin held his hand and explained she had a restaurant reservation, inviting him to go. Sweat poured from his brow as he walked beside her, embarrassed and overwhelmed. He admitted to himself that he could not remember the conversation or the route to the restaurant, only that every passerby stared at them. Both men and women watched them as they walked, and Princess Rin's slender skin and warm body touched his sweaty arm, focusing all his nerves on his left elbow. The restaurant Princess Rin had booked offered private rooms for each table. The air conditioning inside the private room was set so cold that it was chilling, yet his body continued to sweat profusely, as if rain poured from him. Princess Jurin placed her hand gently on his cheek and observed that he seemed to be sweating a lot, and asked if he was okay. Gyumbo felt his heart nearly stop because Princess Rin had come so close. He blushed, struggled to breathe, and rode a wave of nerves and disbelief as the elegant world of Princess Rin enveloped him. Princess Rin moved closer to Gyumbo, their lips almost touching. Gyumbo felt her breath against his skin and thought that she was so close that if this continued, their lips would end up touching. Startled, he quickly grabbed her hand and asked if someone had been hitting her. Princess Rin looked surprised, wondering why he suddenly brought up such a thing. Gyumbo's gaze dropped to her arm as he pointed out the visible patches on her skin. He noted that the smaller-shaped one was a warm patch and realized those must be from bruises. He noticed both cold and warm patches applied together and understood that she had used them differently based on the bruise condition. Concern filled him as he questioned again who was hurting her and told her to ask for help if she needed it. Princess Rin laughed lightly, dismissing his concern. She said there was no one who would dare to hit her. The bruises were from pole dancing marks caused by friction with the pole. Then she posed elegantly, her figure exuding a confidence and allure enough to melt anyone's heart. She looked more striking than many models or actresses, showing off the results of her effort and discipline. She remarked that her body couldn't have been made without hard work. Gyumbo's thoughts raced as he realized that it was indeed from pole dancing. The idea of Princess Rin doing pole dancing amazed him completely. To him, it was absolutely incredible, really the best. Breaking the moment, Princess Rin mentioned that she was hungry and suggested they order food soon, asking what he wanted to eat. They ordered their first dish, and when it arrived, Gyumbo realized that eating just one of those dishes would never fill anyone's stomach. Still, he thought the restaurant had its benefits since the plates were so clean, the hotel wouldn't need to buy too many dishwashers. Gyumbo explained that the menu they ordered was a course meal costing 230,000 won, yet each portion was barely a bite. Despite being so small, the presentation was like artwork. Every time a dish was brought out, the tableware changed, and he found himself admiring how refined the experience felt. Watching each dish arrive felt like witnessing art. As he observed the details, he suddenly remembered the bibimbap he had eaten a few days ago. In his home, they had a bibimbap day once a week, made by his sister. She would throw all the leftover side dishes into one metal bowl. He recalled how she used to scold him, telling him to stop adding sesame oil because it made the dish greasy. But he would always insist that adding a lot made it more savory. That was the day they all ate with spoons, making use of every bit of leftover food instead of wasting it. They devoured the meal under the pretense of calling it bibimbap. He realized that until now, he had only thought of food as a simple means to fill his stomach, but people with money enjoyed it differently. They experienced food as something beautiful, something to be savored, not just consumed. As he pondered this, he kept glancing at Princess Rin. She noticed his gaze and asked what was wrong. Snapping back, he quickly responded that the food was delicious and good. Again, he thought about how he had only viewed food as a simple necessity, while wealthy people appreciated it as an art form. He wondered internally why there was such a difference. Princess Rin chuckled softly, amused by how he was finally starting to converse with her. She noted that he had been so quiet earlier that she thought she would have to talk alone. Gumbo thought to himself that this was why people with money had no complexes or wrinkles. They were kind, gentle, and considerate. Jurin Princess Rin had been so thoughtful toward him this entire time. Then, his mind flashed back to that earlier moment when Princess Rin had come so close to him, their faces nearly touching. He remembered how his heart had raced when she leaned in to wipe his sweat. He wondered what she had been trying to do back then. Before he could think further, his phone suddenly rang. He picked up the call and reacted in shock. Realizing something, he exclaimed that he had completely forgotten something important. The voice on the other side reminded him that this was the real estate office, calling to confirm his appointment time, which was in just 30 minutes. Panicking, Gumbo apologized and said he had a really important appointment right now. He asked if he could look at the house tomorrow instead. The agent warned that they couldn't guarantee the property would still be available, as many people were coming to see it. Flustered, Gumbo asked what he should do. Princess Rin looked at him with a warm smile, realizing what was happening. She mentioned that it was about real estate and asked if he was planning to look at a house. She told him that if it was because of her, it was fine, and offered to go together. Gumbo hesitated for a moment, caught off guard, as she reassured him again that they could go together. Gumbo and Princess Rin went together to see the house. The estate agent greeted them warmly and began explaining about the property. It was a new construction in a large station area complex with wide unit spacing and beautiful walking paths within the community. The management fees were reasonable, and the facilities were not excessive. Everything needed for daily convenience was nearby, with complete amenities in place. The unit had an extended balcony type with a spacious living room. It was empty and ready for immediate occupancy. The agent added that it was a 30 pyong unit, perfect for newlyweds. Gumbo's face turned red with embarrassment when he heard the word newlyweds. He panicked and blurted that they were just friends and that such misunderstandings were not allowed. The idea of being mistaken for a married couple was too much for him, and he kept repeating in his mind that there was no way. Princess Rin chuckled softly at his flustered reaction, enjoying his discomfort. Trying to clarify, Gyumbo explained that his sister would live alone, and that the house being for newlyweds was absurd. But his attention quickly shifted to the view, as he pointed out that the vibe of the place felt nice, and the window seemed to overlook the complex landscaping. The estate agent replied that there was actually an empty unit upstairs that had a direct view of the complex, but someone else had already signed the contract for it. Gumbo asked if they could contact the person who had already signed that contract. The agent hesitated and said that it might be possible if they looked into it. Without hesitation, Gumbo offered to pay triple the deposit and requested that they ask the current buyer if they could cancel the contract. He even promised to cover additional moving costs. The estate agent was taken aback by the sudden offer, surprised at how serious he was. Before things escalated further, Princess Rin stopped him and told him to wait. She reasoned that with that much money, he could get more space, or even move to an apartment in a better location, wondering why he would go to such lengths for this one. But Gyumbo insisted that it was his sister's wish to live in this particular apartment. He said that if triple the deposit wasn't enough, they could ask how much the person wanted, and he would match that amount no matter what. The scene then shifted to the past, showing a younger Gyumbo with his big sister, Manhwa. She had just won a rice cooker in a lottery and was overjoyed, shouting that she had totally hit the jackpot. The event had been hosted by a luxury boutique, giving away almost new appliances like a rice cooker and vacuum cleaner for free. Yunhua laughed and remarked that rich people living in nice apartments really lived in a different class. Noticing something, she suddenly asked Gyumbo about the patches on his arm, and if he was hurt. Flustered, Gyumbo quickly denied it, saying he had just exercised hard during PE class and got muscle pain. In his mind, he thought that he absolutely couldn't tell his sister that he had been beaten by two bullies who also took his money. Yunhua then told him to distinguish between warm and cold patches when applying them, and asked where exactly it hurt and how. Gumbo nervously said he knew already and apologized, feeling guilty for being a brother who couldn't even buy her a birthday present. Yunhua smiled and told him it was fine, and that she was sorry for not giving him enough allowance. Hearing that, Gumbo promised that later, When he made a lot of money, he would buy her anything she wanted. She laughed and pointed to a tall building in the distance, saying that if he really made lots of money, he should buy her that. Gumbo was shocked, thinking that no matter how much he earned, it would be impossible for him. Manhwa laughed again, saying it was just a joke. She added that their current house had a wall blocking the window, but if she could ever live in a home overlooking a beautiful complex landscape, she would have no other wishes. Returning to the present, Gumbo was now standing in that very place, buying the flat on the same floor for his sister. He signed the agreement while the staff reminded him that he must bring his seal when paying the balance next week. He confirmed and said that he had already transferred the deposit. That evening, Gumbo explained that the previous contractor had gladly accepted the triple deposit, and the house overlooking the landscaping became his sister's. He had transferred the deposit that same day and also signed a contract for his own residence. It was the country's tallest residential tower, located on the 54th floor, 61 pyong wide, with a full Han River view and completely furnished. The lease was for a short-term period of 3 months with zero security deposit. Princess Rin whispered to him, concerned about the monthly rent. She pointed out that the rent was almost equal to an average working person's annual salary and suggested that it would be better to pay a larger deposit to reduce the monthly rent. Gumbo smiled awkwardly and thought to himself that he couldn't say anything at her words. Later, standing by the window of his luxurious room, Gumbo spoke softly to himself. He thought about how he could never tell her the truth, that his life decreased as he spent money, and she would never believe such a thing anyway. Now that he had secured his sister's house, he felt a strange calm. He gently patted Lado-chan's head and said that after filling the closet with enough money for hospital bills and living expenses, he would accept death without regrets. He quietly asked Lado-chan to take care of him until then. Just then, his doorbell rang. He wondered who it could be, thinking he hadn't ordered any delivery, and that maybe it was someone from the management office. But when he checked the door camera, he froze in shock. Standing outside his door was Princess Jurin-chan. His eyes widened as he wondered how she had found her way there. Princess Jurin-chan entered the room as Gumbo invited her inside. She looked calm, but carried a strange determination in her expression. Without hesitation, she told him that she wanted to live with him. Gumbo froze in shock, his mind spinning. He blurted out in disbelief, wondering why she would want to live with him, for what reason, and how such a thing could even happen. Princess Jurin chuckled softly, her tone casual yet slightly embarrassed. She explained that she had been evicted and lost her entire deposit because she had fallen behind on rent. She said she was kicked out of her studio apartment, completely broke. Gumbo stared at her, completely shocked. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. In his mind, he thought about how Princess Chan came from a rich background. She always looked glamorous, constantly appearing on social media with stars, traveling abroad, enjoying hotel staycations, and eating at luxurious omakase restaurants without any worries about money. He couldn't understand how someone like her could lose her home. But Princess Jurin calmly clarified everything. She said that none of those things were actually funded by her own money. All of them were sponsorships. Even if someone didn't have as many followers as major influencers, if their looks and popularity were enough, expensive sponsorships could come in. But those sponsorships weren't actual money, they were just promotional deals, an illusion of wealth without any substance. She explained that it was all show, and no real cash flow. It was no different from having everything on the surface, but nothing in reality. As she spoke, Princess Jurin gently placed her hand on Gumbo's shoulder. The sudden closeness made him stiffen. His mind went wild as he struggled to control himself. The thought of living together with Princess Chan flashed in his mind like a dream. He tried to calm down, telling himself to think logically, but his imagination betrayed him. He thought that cohabitation between an ordinary guy and a beautiful woman was a classic trope in old-school manga. The idea of living with a beauty so close to perfection felt like something straight out of fiction. Then he laughed nervously in his thoughts, realizing that it wasn't common at all, definitely not in real life. Hearing her say she wanted to stay made him secretly happy, almost too happy to handle. Still, he tried to remain composed and asked her about her clothes and belongings. He wondered why she hadn't brought anything with her. Princess Jurin sighed and said that it was because she had been kicked out suddenly. While she was away for a short while, her landlord had changed the door lock password. She couldn't even retrieve her things. Without a change of clothes, she had nowhere else to go. That's why she had come to him and asked if she could borrow something to wear. Gyumbo hurriedly gave her one of his favorite shirts, the one with a picture of his beloved character, Hatsune Miko-chan. When Princess Jurin wore it, the oversized t-shirt draped loosely over her small frame, making her look irresistibly cute. Seeing her like that, Gyumbo almost lost his composure. His heart started pounding, and his face turned bright red. In his head, he screamed that it was a fatal cuteness overload. He couldn't believe that his favorite Miko-chan didn't even catch his eye anymore. For the first time, he questioned whether 2D could truly surpass 3D after all. Princess Jurin looked at him and softly said that she was hungry. She suggested making something in the kitchen and asked him to join her. Gumbo followed, still dazed by everything happening. Watching her move around comfortably in his home while cooking made him feel something new. As she began preparing food, Gyumbo stood nearby, mesmerized. He thought about how unbelievable it was that Princess Chan was cooking in comfortable clothes inside his house, the two of them alone together. The scene before him felt like a dream. It was exactly how he imagined newlywed life to be peaceful, warm, and surreal. He couldn't help but think that it was the life he had always dreamed of. After a few minutes, Jurin called out to him, saying that the food was ready. Her voice snapped him out of his thoughts. She told him to sit down quickly. He hurried to the dining table, replying enthusiastically. When they sat down, she asked if ramen was okay. She explained that there weren't many ingredients left in the fridge. Gyumbo apologized, admitting that he mostly ordered delivery food instead of cooking. He then looked at the bowl she had placed before him. The noodles were completely drowned in soup. His mind screamed in confusion. She had called this ramen, but it looked like the noodles were sinking. The brand he usually bought was Grandma brand Han River Ramen, and this looked nothing like it. Princess Jurin looked a little embarrassed and admitted that she had added too much water. She said she wasn't good at adjusting water levels for ramen, and sighed that she might develop thalassophobia at this rate. Hearing her softly blame herself made Gumbo panic. He thought to himself that she was blaming herself unnecessarily and immediately tried to fix the situation. He quickly told her that eating food that was too salty was bad for health and that this ramen was actually perfect for a late-night snack. He thanked her for the meal, saying he would eat well. As he said that, he noticed her smiling warmly at his words. That smile made him feel a strange flutter inside his chest. In his mind, Gyumbo thought quietly to himself. He realized that later, when his time came to die, he would probably look back at this moment. He would think about how precious it was, so precious that it would make dying feel too soon. Princess Jurin then asked if the ramen was too bland, and if she should add more soup base. He immediately told her that it was perfect just the way it was. Later that night, when everything quieted down, Gumbo whispered softly to Lado-chan, his small companion. He said he had been worried about Lado-chan feeling stuffy inside the wardrobe, but realized that maybe it actually felt more comfortable there. He thought about how animals liked dark hiding places where they could conceal themselves and feel safe. As his thoughts wandered, he glanced toward the living room and wondered if Princess Chan had already fallen asleep. Gyumbo sat in front of the TV, his eyes lighting up the moment he saw Attack on Titan playing on the screen. Excitement filled him, as he exclaimed in disbelief that Attack on Titan was being shown for promotion. Princess Jurin chuckled softly, telling him that she knew the show well. She mentioned that she had watched it back in the day and had been re-watching it recently. Gyumbo's enthusiasm grew even more, as he eagerly responded that, of course, he knew it. Among true otaku, he thought, liking Attack on Titan was often considered fashion otaku or fake otaku, but he believed that was just a common generalization error committed by people who never tried to understand the history within the work. Princess Jurin let out a small laugh, amused by how serious he sounded, and teased him for taking it so deeply. She smiled and suggested that if he couldn't sleep, they could watch it together, asking him when he first watched Attack on Titan. Gyumbo immediately replied by asking if she meant his first watch-through timeline or the most recent one. Curious, she asked him how many times he had watched it in total. The two of them then began watching Attack on Titan together. As the episode progressed and the famous scene of Captain Levi appeared, Gyumbo's excitement overflowed. He burst out with joy, recognizing the exact moment when Captain Levi first uttered that legendary line. It was, to him, one of the most epic moments that always ranked in Attack on Titan's top 3 famous scenes. But amidst his excitement, he suddenly noticed that Princess Jurin had fallen asleep on his shoulder. At first, he thought she was joking. Feeling awkward, he smiled nervously and tried to speak, thinking she might just be pretending. However, when he turned to look at her closely, he realized that she had really fallen asleep. He froze, unsure of what to do next. The night passed quietly, and the next morning arrived. Princess Jurin woke up to find herself lying in bed. Still half asleep, she looked around and called out to Gyumbo, asking if he was awake. He replied softly that he was. She greeted him with a sleepy smile, wishing him good morning, and mentioned that she had fallen asleep without realizing it. Then she asked if he had slept well. Gyumbo smiled faintly and answered that he had, though dark circles under his eyes told a different story. In truth, he hadn't slept a wink. When she asked him where he was going, he told her he had to go out to pay the balance for his sister's house. She nodded, realizing that it was that day. He quickly grabbed his things and said he would see her later, muttering about how congested Gangnam usually was during commute hours. Just as he was about to leave, Princess Jurin stopped him for a moment and asked if she could use his computer. Gyumbo, surprised, said sure and told her there was a laptop on the desk in the small room. After that, they both exchanged goodbyes as he headed out for the day. But when night came, everything changed. Gyumbo returned home only to be struck with shock the moment he stepped inside. Princess Jurin was nowhere to be found. The money he had kept in the closet was gone. Even Lado-chan had disappeared. His heart pounded in disbelief as he looked around the empty room, shouting in panic, calling out for Lado-chan, his voice echoing through the silence. A few hours later, the scene shifted to Gyumbo, sitting across a wooden desk, signing the final set of papers for the new house. His hands moved steadily as he completed each signature, and after the last one, he leaned back with visible relief. The estate agent confirmed that all the documents were done and told him that now, only the balance payment remained to be deposited. Hearing that, Gyumbo's face lit up with happiness. He smiled with genuine excitement, thinking to himself that once he transferred this money, they would finally have their own home. Memories flooded his mind as he remembered the years after their parents passed away, the endless struggle of moving from one tiny room to another, never settling, never truly belonging anywhere. He recalled the moment a few years ago when they managed to move into the small two-room place they currently lived in. The window in that house was large, letting sunlight pour into the room. His sister had told him that it would be his room, but at the time, he didn't agree with her. For the first time, they had separate spaces, and it had felt like a new beginning. He remembered how both of them had kept insisting that the other should take the better room. In the end, he had locked himself inside one, refusing to give in, while she had tried to open the door, calling him out for being stubborn. He had called her dominating, and their playful argument had turned into a fight. The memory made him chuckle faintly to himself as he signed the final page. Now, things were different. The new house had 3 rooms and even 2 bathrooms. It wasn't just his sister's newlywed home anymore. It was a space big enough for both of them, with room to grow, even if someday his sister had a child. For the first time, they wouldn't have to squeeze their lives into a small space. He thought quietly that even after he was gone, he hoped his sister would live happily. With that thought, he completed the transfer and sent the remaining balance. Excitement filled his voice as he confirmed that the money had been sent. The estate agent checked and confirmed the payment's arrival, assuring him that the lawyer would now handle the registration process. All the necessary documents would be given to the lawyer to finalize everything. But as the relief began to settle in, Gyumbo's phone rang. It was an unexpected call from his sister's hospital. Confused, he frowned, wondering why the hospital would be calling. A sense of unease crept over him as he immediately rushed there. When he arrived, his world turned upside down. His sister's condition had worsened drastically. Panic filled his chest as he ran to her side, unable to understand what had happened. She had been fine until yesterday, but now, she looked pale and weak. He turned to the doctor, desperate for answers. The doctor explained that he had probably seen the blood test results on the app that morning. The patient's neutrophil count had dropped significantly, and she had developed a fever. They were administering additional medication, but it was a non-covered drug, which required guardian consent before use. Hearing this, Gumbo's thoughts spiraled. The doctor's words echoed in his mind. Her neutrophil count had decreased. He repeated it internally, realizing the weight of it. Then, a chilling memory resurfaced the mysterious man who had once spoken to him about the lotto chance. The man's warning came back vividly in his mind, the words crystal clear. He had said that the amount of money Mr. Cheongumbo took from the wallet beast would cause something related to him to decrease. As those words replayed, Gumbo's eyes widened in horror. Looking at his sister lying weak on the hospital bed, trembling and pale, the truth hit him like a knife. Something related to him, his only blood relative, his sister, that was what it meant. He realized with horror that all this time, every time he had taken money, he had unknowingly been consuming his sister's life. The connection between his fortune and her suffering became painfully clear. Standing there in disbelief, Gyumbo's body trembled. His sister's condition had become critical, her health deteriorating fast. He could no longer hold back the grief tearing through him. Tears streamed down his face as he broke down completely, crying uncontrollably beside her bed, consumed by guilt, fear, and the unbearable truth of what he had done. Then, in a rush of desperation, Gyumbo began running toward his new home. The sky darkened, and heavy rain poured down, soaking him completely as he sprinted through the streets. His breath grew uneven, his shoes splashing through puddles, pushing past people on the road, bumping into them in his frantic hurry. His thoughts repeated over and over in his mind, it was okay. Everything would still be okay. His chest heaved, and the words echoed in his head like a mantra. It's still okay. If he just put the money he took out back into Lotto-chan, then surely everything would be reversed. His sister would get better too. Hope surged through his exhausted body, pushing him to run faster. When he reached home, his clothes and shoes were completely drenched. Dripping wet, he rushed straight inside toward Lotto-chan's locker. But as he opened it, his heart dropped. All the money and Lotto-chan were gone. Terror filled his face. His mind spiraled as he thought that maybe Princess Rin had stolen it, or perhaps it was one of the cases the mysterious man had once mentioned. He remembered those words clearly. There were 3 cases where one could no longer take money from the wallet beast. The first was when something related to Mr. Cheon Gumbo kept decreasing and eventually disappeared completely. Sweat ran down his temples despite the cold rain. The realization struck him like lightning. His sister's life had decreased so much that Lotto-chan itself had vanished. Horror filled his chest. Tears welled in his eyes as he screamed in agony, crying out Lotto-chan's name. He shouted desperately into the empty house, begging, unable to accept it. He couldn't let his sister die like this. He broke down completely, pleading through sobs, begging anyone who could hear him. He didn't need any money anymore. He didn't care if he became a penniless beggar. He just wanted his sister to live. He pleaded with Lotto-chan to take the money back and make things go back to normal. Then suddenly, a faint beep-beep sound echoed in the room. He turned toward the corner and saw Lotto-chan there. Relief washed over him as he ran toward it. Lotto-chan was safe, but it looked angry, glaring with glowing eyes. Gumbo's voice trembled with joy as he thanked the heavens that Lotto-chan hadn't disappeared. But as he looked closely, he noticed its fur looked different. It had changed again. It had evolved in the meantime. It looked cuter than ever, but this wasn't the time to admire it. He wiped the water from his face and refocused. His sister was in critical condition, and this was urgent. He gently picked Lotto-chan up in his hands and quickly began feeding it all the money he had taken earlier. Lotto-chan started eating, its body pulsing faintly as the notes disappeared into its mouth. Relief filled Gyumbo's face as he watched. It was working. Lotto-chan was eating well. He thought about the money he had withdrawn to pay for his sister's house. Thankfully, that amount was still with him. The money in the closet might have been stolen by Princess Rin, but that didn't matter right now. If Lotto-chan could just eat all this money, his sister's condition would definitely improve. His heart raced with desperate hope as he urged Lotto-chan to hang in there, to restore his sister's health. But soon, Lotto-chan's small body swelled, its belly filling up completely. It had eaten too much. Gyumbo's eyes widened in horror as Lotto-chan's mouth suddenly opened wide, and all the money burst back out, scattering wet bills across the floor. He screamed, crying, shaking his head in disbelief. He begged Lotto-chan not to spit it out. Tears ran down his face as he fell to his knees, pleading over and over, begging it to save his sister. The next morning, exhausted and pale, Goembo went to the hospital to hear about his sister's condition. The doctor told him she was doing slightly better than before. His eyes widened, filled with shock and joy. His voice trembled with emotion as he realized it was true. The doctor explained that her neutrophil count had stabilized a lot, and that they could proceed with the next round of chemotherapy as scheduled. Overwhelmed, Gyumbo began to cry with relief. Tears streamed down his cheeks as he thanked the doctor again and again, saying how he had truly thought his sister was going to die because of him. The guilt in his heart broke apart as he spoke, unable to contain his emotions. The doctor placed a hand on his shoulder and said that chemotherapy wasn't a sprint but a marathon. During treatment, there would be times when the neutrophil count dropped, and if he felt happy or sad with every rise and fall, it would be too hard on his heart. His sister was enduring the pain well and needed him to be her strength. Gyumbo wiped his tears and smiled, promising that he would be strong. As he left the doctor's office, he entered the lift, but it was crowded. A young girl, a small cancer patient, stood there with her mother, trying to get inside. The mother sighed in frustration as the doors kept closing before they could fit. She said it was crowded again and suggested waiting for the next lift. The little girl, named Hatsuna, said it was fine, worried more about her mother's tired legs than her own. Seeing them struggle, Gumbo quietly stepped out of the lift and gestured for them to take his place. The mother thanked him sincerely, and they entered. Gumbo stood outside, watching the doors close before he began walking toward the stairs, climbing with quiet determination despite his exhaustion. As he climbed, he thought back to when Lotto-chan had spat the money back out. In that moment, it had felt like despair itself. He had believed he had killed his sister with his own hands and had wanted to die, but now, thank goodness, What decreased when he took money from the wallet beast wasn't his sister's life. That meant she was safe, but the thought haunted him. If not her, then what was really decreasing? He quickly brushed the thought away. It didn't matter. As long as it wasn't his sister, nothing else mattered. It was his choice, and he had made it for her. He told himself to forget everything else and to think only about saving her. When he entered his sister Eunhwa's hospital room, he saw her standing by the window, sunlight filtering softly through the curtains. She turned toward him with a bright smile, her face pale but warm. She noticed the sweat on his face and asked if he was feeling weak. Seeing her worrying about him even now made his chest tighten with emotion. In that moment, he made a promise once more. Everything his sister wanted to do, he would make it all come true. He told himself again and again that her happiness was all that mattered. He sat beside her, speaking gently, asking if there was anything she wished for or wanted to do. He would make it all happen for her. Later, as his sister rested, Gyumbo sat down with his laptop, his mind shifting toward one more unresolved matter. His eyes darkened as he began searching. There was still something else he had to deal with. Princess Rin. His determination hardened as he whispered in his thoughts for her to wait. The scene shifted into the quiet atmosphere of the hospital, where Gyumbo walked beside his older sister Eunhwa with a worried expression, and he told his sister that he wanted to know if she had any wishes or things she wanted to do, because he promised he would make it all happen for her. Eunhwa listened softly and admitted that there was indeed one thing she wanted to do. The two of them then continued their conversation while slowly walking through the hospital garden, where Eunhwa revealed the matter of the industrial accident, leaving Gyumbo completely shocked as he repeated the word industrial accident in disbelief while trying to understand why his sister's illness was being compared to such a thing. Eunhwa explained that a few days ago her work colleagues had visited her at the hospital, and after they had left, the general manager had arrived. The narration transitioned back into that moment in time as Eunhwa sat with the general manager, who handed her a set of documents and explained that, according to internal regulations, the company could not give sick leave indefinitely to just Eunhwa, and even now, her absence meant other colleagues were carrying the burden of extra work. The manager continued by adding that he believed it would be better for her to focus on treatment while colleagues reduced their workload, and so he suggested processing everything as a resignation. He assured her that he would take responsibility for severance and the remaining salary branch pay and would process it quickly. Eunhwa grew nervous and asked for time to think before signing anything, while the manager smirked as he smoked his cigarette and told her to take her time thinking about it today, adding that she could contact him tomorrow and he would come to pick up her resignation letter. Eunhwa tried to clarify that the issue might take a while to consider because she wondered if her illness might actually be an industrial accident. The manager slammed his hand on the table and shouted the phrase, "industrial accident," with agitation, before standing up and delivering a long explanation about how, when people become seriously ill, their mental state weakens and they begin blaming themselves, wondering why such things happen. He claimed he understood the desire to find external reasons or causes, but insisted that acting on such personal feelings would be selfish if it caused damage to the company or colleagues. He complained that although the company was doing its best to accommodate her situation, her attitude was disheartening. He repeatedly struck the table again as he reminded her that once sick leave was exhausted, it became unauthorized absence, which would eventually lead to disciplinary action and dismissal, and he pressed her by asking if she was prepared for that. He addressed her formally as Miss Chon Eunhwa and urged her to make a wise judgment. The narration then returned to the present moment as Eunhwa continued explaining everything to Gyumbo, saying that since that day the company had been contacting her daily to ask if she had signed the resignation letter, which she found strange because they could simply fire her for unauthorized absence if they wanted to. She felt it was like they absolutely needed her to sign the resignation letter. Gyumbo reminded her that the doctor had said the cause of leukemia could not be confirmed, and Eunhwa acknowledged that this was true, which was why she felt that while she was still alive, she wanted to try to prove the connection to the industrial accident. The two of them then reached a bench and sat down as Eunhwa mentioned that she had told him about the savings account, where she had been putting money aside for him, explaining that it contained a few million won, and she asked if she could use that money to get industrial accident approval. Gyumbo swallowed nervously and refused firmly, reminding her that the money was something his sister had saved for him. Eunhwa awkwardly smiled at his reaction and said she had no choice then, but Gyumbo declared that, instead, he would uncover that industrial accident with his own money. A realization spread through him as he thought about how protagonists in comics changed when they gained special abilities, and how readers could see the moment they developed a sense of mission. He recalled the classic phrase about great power bringing great responsibility, and how that sense of mission became a protagonist's life goal. He compared it to himself and realized that the reason he had gained the special ability called Lotto-chan was because of this moment. He also remembered his bucket list and thought about trying the mango bingsu that cost over 100,000 won, deciding that this was it. Evening arrived as the scene shifted, and Gyumbo declared to Lotto-chan that they would change the world together, causing Lotto-chan to react with excitement. He then sat in front of his computer and decided to first find a labor attorney specializing in industrial accidents, while thinking that he should also look into law firms because a consultation would tell him what to do first. When he glanced at the screen, he realized he was logged in as Princess Rin and reacted with frustration as he told himself that if someone was going to use someone else's PC, they should at least uncheck auto login. He prepared to log out but discovered a message addressed to Princess Rin stating that Jihagun had gotten 500 million in cash and was coming now with it. He froze at the mention of 500 million in cash and realized that after receiving the PC login notification, Princess Rin had deleted the chat and logged out. His thoughts raced back to his sister's situation, but another realization struck him when he noticed that Princess Rin had stolen his 500 million won from the closet. He called her Princess Rin in his thoughts and vowed that she should wait for him. The story then moved to another setting where Jin and June were drinking together. June quietly drank, while Jin became frustrated and demanded that June say something, complaining about whether they were just going to give up on Chun Fatty's money. Jun yelled back that he didn't know what Jin expected him to do and reminded him that they had both been beaten, pointing out that if that guy came at them seriously, even if the two of them worked together 2-1, they had felt the overwhelming difference in power. Jin silently agreed, as he admitted internally that once fear was imprinted, it didn't easily disappear. Suddenly, Jin received a text from Gyumbo, and he told Jun that Jun Fatty had messaged them and was telling them to come to his house immediately. Jin complained that Gyumbo acted like he was their boss just because they let him hit them once, but he also noted that Gyumbo had said he would give them money. They both agreed to go, and when they arrived at Gyumbo's house, they were shocked by its luxury. Jin stared and asked if this enormous place was really Chon Gyumbo's house, noting that the monthly rent alone was at least 20 million. Jun added that he thought some idol had said they lived there. Gyumbo ignored their reactions and told them to stop looking around the house and get to the point. Offended, the two thought to themselves that Gyumbo was acting cocky just because he had some money. Gyumbo explained that someone had stolen his money, and Jin burst into laughter as he teased him for being robbed by a woman, mocking him for still getting robbed and laughing even harder because it was a woman. Jun smacked him verbally by telling him to read the room, and when they noticed Gyumbo's growing anger, Jin quickly panicked and insisted that he wasn't laughing at him and that he was worried. He begged Gyumbo to unclench his fist. Jun covered Jin's mouth and clarified the situation, saying that Gyumbo simply needed them to get back the money that woman had stolen. Gyumbo confirmed this and said he would give them 20% of the money recovered. Jun reacted with excitement, calling 20% their specialty and promising they would handle it without worries. In his thoughts, Jun celebrated the jackpot, calculating that even if they recovered just 10 million won, they would get 2 million for themselves. Jin claimed that this was what friends were for, helping each other in hard times, while Jun added that this was what loyalty looked like. Gyumbo rejected the idea of friendship or loyalty and reminded them that they weren't that kind of relationship. Jin laughed and called him sensitive, while Jun told him that they could sort out relationship matters later, and asked how much they needed to recover. Gyumbo stated the number clearly, 500 million. The moment they heard it, Jin and Jun collapsed to the floor in shock and immediately declared that Gyumbo was not their friend. They called him boss instead and pledged themselves completely, begging him to give them the coordinates so they could leave right away. Jin declared he would devote his loyalty as well. Gyumbo adjusted his glasses and thought with calm satisfaction that everything was now all clear. Jun slammed his hand down hard on the table in total shock. He was completely stunned as he realized it was Gong Rin, the same woman who had stolen the money. In his mind, she was the true-to-form princess he knew. He reacted dramatically, almost like he had just spotted a celebrity in a disguise movie scene, and the shock of it all hit him again when he wondered if anyone had really been in contact with Princess Rin. Meanwhile, Gyumbo sat there casually eating his noodles, completely unbothered, as if all this chaos was normal lunchtime conversation. He calmly made it clear that there had been no earlier contact, he had only gotten a call this time. Jun, now even more confused, tried to piece it together and wondered if Princess Rin had actually contacted the boss first. Gyumbo then showed him the chat messages with Rin, as if unveiling secret evidence. He explained that she had sent him a direct message and that she had somehow come across his profile through an algorithm and decided to contact him herself. Seeing this, June stared at the screen in shock and admiration, thinking how unreal it was and how insanely jealous he felt in that moment, like someone who just lost a lottery to his best friend. Jin, however, shifted the focus back to business and brought up the part about the money being in the closet. Gyumbo confirmed that the money really was placed there. Jin then wondered whether Princess Rin was actually in the house right now. Gyumbo clarified that he had only stayed overnight. Instantly, both Jun and Jin drifted into deep, dramatic imagination mode. In their minds, they pictured Gyumbo and Princess Rin spending the entire night in the same house, and the thought absolutely crushed their souls. They felt completely defeated, as if they had just lost an epic romantic battle without even participating in it. They grabbed their own hair in frustration and sank into depression, mentally repeating that they could never beat that kid. Suddenly, Jin had a realization and remembered that Princess Rin used to come to their store with her boyfriend not long ago. Jun froze and asked in disbelief whether Rin actually had a boyfriend. Jin confirmed it and mentioned that every time she visited the store, she always bought things for him. Jun processed this with visible annoyance and concluded that she truly loved her boyfriend a lot. In his frustration, he started imagining that Rin had skillfully acted nice to Gyumbo, taken a lot of money from him, and then given it all straight to her boyfriend like a dramatic soap opera twist. Anger bubbled up inside Jun as he compared it to a snake-like act, thinking that not only had Gyumbo been fooled emotionally, but he had essentially lost 500 million won in the process. Jin, being the more practical one, declared that if the money was ever found, it should absolutely be reported to the police. Gyumbo, smirking slightly like he was enjoying the chaos, asked again if Rin really had come to Jin's store with her boyfriend. Jin confirmed it clearly. Instead of getting upset, Gyumbo found the whole situation awesome, as if his life had suddenly become an interesting drama series. From there, the scene smoothly shifted into Rin's painful past. She explained that when she was little, she received no help from anyone. Whenever her mother was not at home, it was the perfect time for her father to beat her. A horrifying flashback appeared, showing her drunk father brutally abusing her while screaming that she was even worse than the others, that she looked like GM, and that her existence was unlucky. He insulted her intelligence, called her useless, told her to sleep forever, and even ordered her to get out and die. It was cruelty wrapped in alcohol and rage. She then revealed that even when her mother was home, there was no safety. Instead, her father would beat her mother. Another disturbing memory played, showing him drunk and furious, shouting that going to work was terrible and cruelly comparing her mother to another beautiful woman. He mocked her appearance and threatened to kill both her and the child, saying they should go to the afterlife together. He ranted nonsensically about men, and then screamed profanities at her. Her mother cried out desperately for help. On the other side, Rin trembled in fear, hiding in a corner and crying silently, too scared to move. She explained in her mind that she could never ask that kind of mother for help, because her mother herself was trapped and powerless. One day, she felt that if things continued like this, she would truly die. In a desperate act of courage and survival, she hid in the bathroom and called the police. Her father tried to force the door open, but she resisted. Eventually, she heard the police entering the house. She thought that finally, after so much suffering, her father was going to get caught. However, outside the bathroom, her father calmly lied to the police officer, saying that he had 2 naughty children. She heard laughter, that cruel, unreal laughter. After some time passed, the same police officer spoke to her through the door, asking if she was a princess, and telling her that she should listen to her father carefully. He even joked that if she didn't listen again, the police would scold her next time. The police then casually told her father not to scare the child too much, adding that while home education was important, it should be moderate. Her father responded with a smiling face, saying that he would pay more attention in the future. But hidden behind that smile was a true beast, a predator in human skin. Then, the day the police left became another turning point. Rin realized that she had done something wrong in her father's eyes. She begged him in her mind that she would not do it again, and silently asked to be saved. Since the day she was born, that became the day she was hit the most. Her father beat her violently with his belt. Rin further explained that when her father became tired of hitting her, he would always send her to the nearby supermarket to buy alcohol for him. At that time, she was only 9 years old. The following year arrived, but the shame she felt remained. She was ashamed of how she looked. So, before going to the supermarket, she carefully combed her hair, wiped her face, and shook out her clothes. She tried to make herself look like a child who had never been hit. Somehow, she managed not to get caught by the supermarket lady, which, in a sad and bitterly funny way, felt like a small secret mission success. One day, she finally started avoiding her father the entire day. She stayed outside the house instead of going back inside. Strange, broken thoughts passed through her mind. The hours stretched on and on until her father finally fell asleep. During that time, when she stayed at the local playground every day at the same hour, she noticed a boy who always passed by the playground. He always looked happy. He was always smiling as he walked by. After some time, she noticed that the boy always walked back with his older sister. He carried snacks like bunjo pang, hodok, and kupbap. He laughed happily while sharing the food with his older sister. Unlike her, he looked truly happy. Then the scene shifted to a moment in the park. Rin was sitting alone in the rain. She felt cold. Her thoughts drifted to what time her father would go to bed that night. She hoped it would be early. She wished that if he fell asleep quickly, it would be better. Suddenly, her father found her. He was smoking, and the way he looked at her was terrifying. He grabbed her by the hair and dragged her with him while shouting that the girl was stuck there. He mocked her cruelly and showed twisted pride in humiliating her. He accused her of being out all day and blamed her for him having to come out in the rain to buy macchioli. In that moment, Rin realized something. Whenever it rained, her father always went to buy makgeolli from the bar near the playground. She cursed herself for forgetting something so obvious. She blamed her own mind and called herself stupid for it. She felt that if she had been smarter, maybe things would not have been this way. She stood somewhere in the middle of her broken thoughts. She imagined that if she had done well, maybe her family could have been like that smiling child. She wondered if that boy had been doing well in life. She truly did not know. She remembered that she had never cried while being beaten by her father before. Yet on this day, for some unknown reason, tears finally fell from her eyes. Her father, enraged, grabbed her hair again and screamed at her for crying. He demanded to know what someone else had done right to deserve happiness while she suffered. He told her to stop crying so pitifully at once. As he raised an umbrella to hit her, the same boy she had been seeing every day suddenly stepped in. With all his strength, the boy struck her father with the umbrella instead. Her father groaned in pain and swore in anger. He shouted, full of fury and disbelief, at the boy. The boy stood firm and told him to stop. He did not understand why adults hit children in the first place. In Rin's mind, this became a powerful moment. It was the first time in her life that someone had helped her while she was going through all of this. That child became the very first person to ever protect her. The scene then slowly shifted back to the present. Rin's clothes were torn. Her condition made it obvious that she had been beaten badly once again. Her hands and feet were tied to a metal rod. She slowly opened her eyes and realized that she had just been trapped inside a long, traumatic dream of her past. Pain shot through her body. Everything burned and hurt. She felt extreme thirst. She felt unbearable hunger. She knew she had to get out. She tried to gather the last strength left in her body. Her thoughts became tangled. Part of her felt like giving up. Part of her wondered if she would die like this. She did not care much about dying, but she felt deep worry for her mother, who would be left alone. She wished that her mother would not be too sad. She even believed that rather than suffering her entire life, dying might be easier. Just then, Gumbo arrived. The moment Rin saw Gumbo, she burst into heavy tears. Deep inside, another feeling finally surfaced. In truth, she did not want to die. She wanted to live. Even through her broken state, one clear thought rose from her heart. She wanted help. The scene shifts to a few hours earlier. The general manager goes to visit Chon Eunhwa at the hospital, acting casually as he arrives, saying that he came to visit his beloved subordinate. A nurse informs him that she heard patient Chon Eunhwa is not available for visitation at the moment. The general manager immediately questions why, insisting that he is Chon Eunhwa's boss. The nurse tells him not to smoke inside the hospital. The general manager responds that it is not a cigarette and claims it is something dedicated. He repeats the word dedicated as if emphasizing it. The nurse then touches his hand and explains that, regardless, the patient is refusing all visitors. The general manager reacts angrily, shaking off her hand and shouting in disbelief. He shouts for them to get out of his way, insulting them and saying they make him sound like a piece of trash when they speak to him. He forcefully pushes the two nurses aside and tries to enter. One of the nurses urgently calls out that this is the VIP ward and asks for security to be sent immediately. The general manager grumbles under his breath while smirking. At that moment, a tall, muscular man steps in front of him. This man is Chon Eunhwa's personal security guard. The general manager asks who he is. The security guard calmly states that visits to Miss Chon Eunhwa are not permitted and asks to be informed if there is any business. The general manager becomes nervous and awkward, saying that he is close to Manhwa and that he is her boss. He explains that he came because he was worried about her. The security guard repeats firmly that he already said it was not allowed. The general manager suddenly shouts Yunhua's name, yelling to ask what is wrong with her and whether she is okay. He tries once again to force his way inside. The security guard grabs him and drags him out. The general manager falls, but the guard continues pulling him away. The guard coldly states that he is someone who only needs to make one phone call to put someone in the hospital. The general manager cries out, begging him to wait, complaining that his throat hurts badly and asking for a moment. Afterward, the same security guard gives Manhwa a piece of chocolate. Manhwa looks at it and recalls that he said it was a gift for visiting someone in the hospital. The guard responds that he has nothing to say and that he thinks the man just took something out of his pocket and handed it over. Manhwa explains that her blood sugar is not under control right now because of cancer treatment. She adds that candy is just candy and asks him to throw it away. The security guard cheerfully says that he will throw it away, joking that it will go into his mouth. Manhwa then calls Gumbo and tells him that the general manager just left, though it did not seem like it ended smoothly. She wiggles slightly. She comments that having a 24-hour security guard feels a bit excessive. She worries that it must cost too much money. Gumbo admits that he does it because he wants to feel at ease. Then he tells that he came out to buy something right now, so she cannot talk for long. He tells her that he will see her tomorrow and ends the call. After that, the Gumbo asks a staff member whether everything is done and whether he can ride it right now. He looks over and sees that his car is already prepared. Jin happily sits in the car and comments that the boss is really smart. He mentions that he just heard Princess Lin came to their store. He talks about checking member information and how they found the address, phone number, and even the vehicle number all at once. Gumbo reminds him that they did the same thing when they came to his house by viewing member information without permission. Jin says there was no way to know that and then trails off, realizing that the boss is doing the same thing now. Gumbo calmly states that he went there. Gumbo then drives to pick up June. June reacts loudly in shock, swearing and calling it absolutely disgusting. He points out the ribbon on the car and asks what the hell it is, shouting that everyone is staring. Two girls nearby whisper to each other, guessing that it must be a new car and saying they thought it was a wedding car. Gumbo asks Jun if he recognized it. Jun confirms and explains that he went to the healing office. He says he entered Princess Rin's phone number and pulled up all her recent call records. He checked the name of the number she called and noticed it was saved under Princess Rin's name. Gumbo asks if her boyfriend's name is Ji Ha-gun. Jun explains that it must be Ji Ha-gun saved under Princess Rin's name without a license. He questions why Princess Rin would take out a full loan under her own name to buy such an expensive Porsche. He explains that the Porsche with a full loan and the one-room apartment with monthly rent are all in Gongjurin's name and that there is not even a single basement apartment. He asks why that is, and answers himself that the guy is a wanted criminal. He curses him, calling him a damn dog criminal. He lists the crimes: second-hand fraud, theft, unauthorized eating, and property damage. Jin reacts jokingly and asks what a non-stop meal even is, swearing casually. Gumbo mentions location tracking and says he tried it. He explains that Gongjurin's last location appeared on both GPS systems. The location pointed directly to Princess Rin's house. Jin asks what that means and wonders if it implies they are living together. He says that Princess Rin living with him is a total no-brainer. Asking if he is going to meet the cub, Jun says that it would be a waste of face for both of them, then asks if they are going to Princess Rin's house right now and calls him a little punk. He comments that the boss seems too simple and says that with his level of wealth, it barely makes sense. He questions what kind of domestic car this even is. He notices the vinyl wrap and asks why it has not been taken off. Gumbo explains that this morning at the store, this was the only car he could drive immediately. Jin is shocked and asks if he bought it this morning. Gumbo confirms that he bought it at the store just to pick them up right away. He explains that there was no time to remove the vinyl. Jun is shocked and says that he chose a car he could ride immediately. He is amazed and says that it is unbelievable. He comments that Gumbo lives his life in a completely different way. Jin admits that he is jealous. Gumbo then spots a red Porsche and asks if Princess Lin's car was a Porsche. He points it out and says it is right there. Gumbo asks Jin and Jun if everyone is wearing their seatbelts. Suddenly, Gumbo increases the car's speed drastically. Jin and Jun scream in fear, shouting and asking what the boss is doing. Gumbo drives straight toward Rin's boyfriend's Porsche at high speed. Jin, regaining his composure, shouts angrily at Gumbo, calling him insane and demanding to know what he is doing. Gumbo deliberately crashes his car into Rin's boyfriend's Porsche. At the same time, Rin's boyfriend is sitting in the bathroom playing a game and losing. He curses, saying he messed up again and feels like trash. He mutters about the timing being terrible. He then receives a message and wonders what it is. He sees a photo of his car after the accident. He swears loudly in shock. Another message arrives, telling him that his car got a little scratched while someone was passing by and asking him to come out for a moment. After reading the message, he runs outside angrily, muttering about how dare someone do this to his car and saying that he completely lost it. Meanwhile, Jin, Jun, and Gumbo are heading toward his house. Jin asks if turning the wanted kid over to the police would earn him money. Jun says there is a bounty and swears, then corrects himself, saying there is no bounty for petty criminals. As they continue, Rin's boyfriend suddenly appears in front of them, holding a knife. Seeing this, Jin and Jun are terrified. He screams at them to get out of the way, swearing violently. He then runs toward his car. Jin comments that the kid is completely crazy. Jumbo thinks quietly to himself that maybe he is tired. Jun says that Rin's boyfriend probably rolled his eyes after seeing the picture of the car. Suddenly, Jun shouts about the door closing. Jin grabs the door and shouts for them to get in. Jun praises Jin Il-sok, calling his timing nice. The three of them rush inside the house together. Jin proudly asks how his reflexes were. Jun replies that they are talented. Afterward, Rin's boyfriend returns and sees that the door is locked from the inside. He stands there in disbelief, thinking about what the hell just happened. The situation turned chaotic as Jin muttered that everything was fucked up. The latch on the door had broken. He worried about what would happen if that bastard opened the door and came inside. Jun told him that they could find the money before going out. Gumbo added that he also needed to find out where Princess Rin was. From outside, Rin's boyfriend started pushing the door and shouted for it to open. Jun told Jin to brace himself and hold the door tightly. Jin did exactly that. Rin's boyfriend shouted in confusion, wondering why the fucking door would not open. The door rattled violently. He cursed them loudly, calling them mother dash. Getting closer, he yelled angrily, demanding to know what they were doing in his house. The door almost opened, and Jin panicked. Jin shouted at Jun to hurry and hold the door with him or it would open. Jun told him to wait a minute. From the small gap he had forced open, Rin's boyfriend shoved a knife inside and threatened them. He said he would poke them. He ordered them to open the door immediately if they did not want to be caught. Jun shouted back, asking if he was really going to stab him. Jun realized that if the door opened, everything would be He yelled for Jin to pull harder and keep the door shut. He screamed that he was angry. He cursed them again, saying he would kill them all. Jun yelled that his arm was basically gone and asked what he was supposed to do about the sword. He desperately asked if there was no way to push it out through the door. Jin suggested that if he pulled the door hard enough, maybe the blade would break. Rin's boyfriend clenched his teeth and said that even if he closed it like that, he would search everything. He repeated that he would kill them all, unconditionally. He kept muttering about killing. Jin asked Gumbo what they should do and called him boss. Gumbo calmly took something out of his bag and told them to just open it. He instructed them to open it on the count of 3 and to avoid the door when it opened. As Gumbo counted 1, 2, 3, Jin and Jun stepped away from the door. Rin's boyfriend burst it open and screamed, demanding to know what the hell those fucking bastards were doing. Gumbo pointed his gun at him and fired, but instead of a bullet, gas came out. The gas made Rin's boyfriend unable to breathe or see properly. He shouted in shock, realizing it was a gas gun, and cursed Gumbo, calling him a little piece of shit. Unable to see, Rin's boyfriend swung the knife wildly in all directions. During this, Gumbo's finger was slightly cut. Still blind and enraged, Rin's boyfriend screamed, asking if they were treating him like a dog. He grinned wildly and shouted that he had lost everything. He cursed them again, screaming that everything was gone and that he would kill them all. Gumbo ran away. Jin and Jun thought that the fatty had abandoned them. Rin's boyfriend continued swinging his knife blindly and screamed, asking where they were. He shouted insults, calling them idiots, and screamed again that he had lost everything. From behind, Gumbo struck Rin's boyfriend hard on the hand with his umbrella. The knife flew out of his grip and fell to the floor. The knife landed right in front of Jin. Jin and June, terrified, exclaimed that it was awesome. The scene then shifted smoothly to a few days earlier. Jin, June, and Gumbo were at Gumbo's apartment. June told Gumbo honestly that it sounded ridiculous to say this. He said he would admit what he needed to admit and ask like a man. June told him that, as Gumbo already knew, Princess Rin had a boyfriend named Jiha Gun. June explained that if Gumbo was being extorted for money through dating violence, couldn't the boss solve it alone? He said that if they only considered punching power, the boss was far superior to them. June asked why Gumbo had spent so much money to call them. Gumbo reacted with surprise and asked if they had not seen Demon Slayer. Jin and Jun thought to themselves, wondering what that was, internally calling him a duck. Gumbo explained that no matter how great an attack was, if it didn't hit, it was meaningless. He said he already knew his power very well. However, in a dizzy situation, his speed was slow and his accuracy was low. Gumbo said that if something unexpected happened and his eyes suddenly became itchy, he would signal them. He explained that when the match suddenly changed, that would be their cue. The scene then shifted back to the present. Gumbo told Jin and June to grab Rin's boyfriend tightly. Gumbo then punched him hard, sending him flying backward, where he fell unconscious. Jin was impressed and exclaimed that Gumbo got a one-shot. He praised the boss, calling him so cool. June told them to finish this quickly and leave before the bastard woke up. He said he would find something to tie the kid up. He instructed Jin to find the money first. Jin happily agreed and said he liked efficient division of labor. He said he knew the habits of those thugs very well. He explained that wanted guys always had to be ready to run away at any time. Usually, they kept things in a bag. Jin bent down to grab the bag and said that it was obvious. As he did, he noticed a leg behind the curtain. He screamed that there was a body. He shouted that there was a human corpse on the veranda and that the crazy guy had hidden a body. Gumbo thought to himself that this was Princess Rin's house and questioned how there could be a corpse. He rushed over to check. There, he saw Rin with her hands and legs tied up. When Rin saw Gumbo, she burst into tears. Then, Rin fainted. Gumbo rushed to her side. June and Jin, terrified, asked if it was Rin's corpse. Gumbo said it was not dead and that he thought she had fainted. He guessed that she had been locked on the veranda. Gumbo said they needed to untie her quickly and take her to the hospital. He told the others to find the money first while he looked for something to cut the ropes. Jun said they needed something sharp to cut with. He said he had found a cutter knife in the shoe rack earlier. Jin said he already had the money and that he had found it. They called an ambulance and took Rin to the hospital. Jin said that Gumbo had mentioned 500 million. He noted that the money looked almost unused. He said it made sense, because cash was inconvenient to use. He guessed that deposits and withdrawals were risky and mentioned something like money laundering. Jin asked what would happen if someone did that. June explained that if you could not explain where the money came from, it would be considered illegal money and you would be put in handcuffs. Gumbo thought to himself about the funding and research sources. He remembered that he had deposited the money he took from Lotto-chan into his account. He recalled paying the deposit for his house and the purchase price for his sister's house by bank transfer. He realized that if he went to jail, he would not be able to take Lotto-chan with him. He remembered the mysterious man's words from before. There were 3 situations where you could no longer withdraw money from your wallet. The second was not taking money out of the wallet for 30 days. Gumbo realized that when the value of the wallet disappeared, he would not be able to get money out of Lotto-chan. He concluded that everything was completely fucked up. As they were driving in the new car, Gumbo thought about what June had previously said was half right and half wrong. When he looked it up on the internet, depositing and withdrawing 10 million won was not unconditionally risky. Cases where investigations were conducted for suspicious transactions, like illegal funds or money laundering, were when cash was being deposited or withdrawn excessively in anyone's view. In other words, it was cases like his. Money deposit and withdrawal information was shared with government agencies. Not only bank counter transactions, but ATM transactions were also the same. Just then, he recalled how Lotto had said something like that before, telling him to remember that the cash he took from the wallet beast cannot be deposited at regular banks or ATMs. The only way to put the wallet beast's cash into Gumbo's account was to use the ATM located on the 28th floor of the gloomy building in Gangnam. At that time, Gumbo had thought that it was just a usage condition. That was because he could no longer take money from Lotto, which he was informed about right after he was told those three conditions. But thinking about it now, there were many strange points. He had come to the building following the map, but still felt uneasy. At the entrance of the gloomy building in the heart of Gangnam, his face had already been registered somehow. And perhaps because it was a new building, all floors were empty, without even an ant in sight. But on the 28th floor, only an ATM was placed on the empty floor. In that large space, easily over 100 meters long, there was only a single ATM. It was as if the entire building only existed for this ATM. He then remembered how Lotto had told him that the money taken from the wallet beast had no tax issues, assuring him that he wouldn't be investigated for the source of funds for his purchase. Finally, understanding what Lotto meant, if he just followed the conditions well, then the money taken from Lotto, whether it be to buy buildings or countries, there would be no limit to spending. He did not realize it before, but it was a truly terrifyingly attractive condition. Lotto had released freedom as bait, but at the end of it, there was a trap. The more he got addicted to sweet consumption and took money out, the more he would lose something. The scene then shifts to years before, where a young Gumbo was protecting Rin from a man, asking him why an adult was hitting a child. As the scary man stood over them, Rin remembered this view. In her life, this was a scene she could absolutely never forget. At that time, the child who had helped her had been beaten really badly by her dad. She was scared that the boy might die like that, but her body wouldn't move to do anything. The moment she went to help that child, she felt like she would be the one getting beaten instead. But that was when that child's sister rushed to her dad at lightning speed, grabbing hold of her dad as she tried to protect Gumbo. Gumbo's sister then bit Rin's dad as he screamed in pain, beating her to let go. But before he could do anything, Gumbo bit his other arm. At her dad's scream, the neighborhood people gathered, and because many people saw him beating that child and his sister, her dad was eventually taken by the police. Rin's mom, who had rushed over after finishing work at the police station, confessed to her dad's violence that had been happening. And the police officers who saw her moms and her bodies couldn't say anything. Her dad had been arrested, but while screaming day and night in detention for alcohol, he was beaten to death by an inmate in the same cell. When Rin heard the news of her dad's death, the first emotion she felt was eeriness. Realizing that people could really die from being beaten, she wondered how if her dad hadn't been caught by the police, she and her mom might have really been beaten to death by her dad. The day they cremated her dad and returned to the new house they had moved to, Rin's mom hugged her tightly and said that she was sorry for not protecting her all this time. And from now on, she would only live for Rin. As much as Rin was hurt because of her dad, she would devote her entire life to doing better. Seeing her cry, Rin tried to console her mom. Her mom then told her not to live as she had, but to meet a good man and be happy. After that day, her mom really devoted herself to Rin. Feeding her only the most delicious things and dressing her in only the finest clothes. She even sent her to academies that everyone else went to. While begrudgingly spending even a single penny on herself, she did not hesitate to spend a month's salary on Rin. So much so that at the school she transferred to, people mistook her for a rich family's daughter. Sometimes Rin would think of that child named Gumbo and go to the old neighborhood playground. But she never met him. Then one day she met Gumbo again when she was in high school. Watching him being bullied helplessly, she was shocked. Not because his appearance had changed drastically, or because the brave appearance that he had had from those days had disappeared, but because she had wanted to help him, yet her body would not move. Realizing that helping someone in pain was this difficult, she was surprised that Gumbo had done that difficult thing at the age of 9. Far from helping him like that, without even a single conversation with him, she became 20 years old, and she finally got her first boyfriend. In the early stages of dating, Un, who was endlessly sweet and devoted, started living together with her in her studio apartment with various excuses, and then his true nature began to show. Un shouted at her upon hearing that she had no money. Rin couldn't tell her mom that she was getting beaten by a man. Wondering if it was because she inherited her mom's fate, because her mom would obviously blame herself and be sad. She absolutely did not want her to know anything about this. If she told Un about breaking up, he would hit her more. And if she reported it to the police, She felt like he would kill her. At that time, she thought the only way to escape from Un was through death. But then Un told her that if she wanted to break up that badly, she should give him a few $100 million, that way her would break up with her calmly. Hearing this, a thought crossed Rin's mind that only if she had money could she escape from this hell. Rin began thinking about how, in her situation, she could save a few $100 million. Although she was working as an influencer, her follower count was mediocre, so she could only get sponsorships but no money. She had also looked into loans, but Un had already exceeded the credit limits in her name. Tired of thinking about a solution at that time, she blankly pulled up her social media to scroll through. And that's when Gumbo's video was released. Seeing him dressed up in all that luxury stuff, she had found something better than gold. She did not know what had happened after graduation, but one thing was certain. For now, Gumbo, in fact, had a lot of money. The same Gumbo who could not resist any bullying. If it were the same timid Gumbo, he would easily give her money. Morality, conscience, there was no time to argue for those, as she messaged him. First of all, she had to live as she started putting on makeup to go meet him. This had happened on the morning she was going to meet Gumbo, but it would be more correct to say that she was going to get money. But it was okay, since, from childhood, no matter how many times she got hit, she had been good at pretending that nothing had happened. When she met him, it was as expected that her gold would be easy. Even if she just touched him a little, she could feel him trembling from not knowing what to do. But she continued acting as if it were usual. She then got a text from Un saying that his stomach was hurting. But today wasn't scary for her, because she was confident. If she did this with him, Gumbo would give her money. But to her surprise, Gumbo suddenly held her hand, asking if someone was hitting her, something Rin had not expected. Gumbo told her that he was ready to help her if anything happened. She had never thought that she would get to hear something like this, but she continued to pretend like everything was okay. Throughout the meal, her hands were shaking. She had been caught getting hit, but it wasn't the feeling of embarrassment or anything like that, but it was unbearable as she was ashamed of her actions. At that time in high school, let alone help Gumbo, she could not even talk to him. She had seen how he used to be, yet he was still trying to help her. Thinking about how people who grew up loved by their family were so different, she envied Gumbo. Back at her studio apartment, Un threw the food at her, complaining about the taste. The payment details about the restaurant Rin had been to with Gumbo had been revealed to him. She tried to explain that it was an investment in order to get more money, but Un continued beating her without listening to a single word. She then saw him pick up a knife, feeling like she was going to really die today. So, leaving behind her phone and wallet, she ran away without thinking. Out on the streets, she decided to go to Gumbo's house. He lived at a place so expensive that even celebrities went there, so the security must be good there as well. Thinking how, even if Un found out where she had gone, it wasn't a place he could just enter like that, but it turns out she was too complacent. For her mom to contact her, she had logged into Messenger using Gumbo's laptop, but Un had gone through her messages with her mom, finding out her address. Seeing him get her mom's address, Rin cursed. Just then, a message showed up from Un, saying that he knew she had logged in through a PC. Then he sent her a picture of a knife, saying that he was on his way to Rin's mom's house. Seeing this made her scream as she pondered what to do next. She thought about contacting the police, but since she had left her phone, she would need to go outside. But the real problem came after reporting it to the police, as it was obvious that Un would come back for revenge. She wondered if there was any other way to solve her problem, something she could do without her mom knowing. Just then, her eyes fell on Gumbo's wardrobe. Opening the wardrobe filled with cash, she thought about how, even though she was suffering, she would never let this suffering spread to her mother. So to stop that man, she needed money. Messaging Un through the laptop, she told him that she had 500 million won in cash, telling him to stop. Back at their apartment, she dumped all the money in front of him, asking if it was enough now. Because she had given him the millions as promised, she told him to get out of her house, telling him not to contact her anymore or even dare to show up in front of her ever again, but Un started laughing, asking her what she was talking about. If she could get 500 won this easily, he shouted at her for not doing so till now. He said that if he could squeeze money out of her so easily, why would he break up with her? As Rin started running away, Yoon threatened her, saying that he could always go to her mom's house. Grabbing a hold of her hair, he said that she was going to stay with him for a long time now, as she could not escape from him. After some time, Rin opened her eyes, lying in a hospital room. She then suddenly got up, surprising Gwembo, who was standing beside her. He told her that the doctors had said that she needed to lie down and rest, but Rin did not care about that, telling Gumbo that her mother was in danger. Getting up, she wanted to hurry to her mom's house, but Gwembo stopped her. He told her that everything was okay and for her to calm down, assuring her that she could rest and that nothing would happen anymore. For by now, the underground men he had hired should have taken care of it. In a forest, some men threw Un in a pit. Un begged for anyone to help him, saying he had done nothing wrong, and if they let him live, he would do anything they asked, begging them to spare his life. Jihagun was beaten up badly, and his hands were tied as he continued to beg for mercy and asked the big guy to spare his life. As Jihagun continued to cry, the big guy flicked a stone at his head to mock him, and the small guy, his bodyguard, stood beside him with a shovel in his hand and told Jihagun that sparing him would be very easy. The small guy mocked Jihagun by smiling right in his face as if he were enjoying the show, while the big guy asked Jihagun if he knew exactly how he had ended up in his current situation. Confused about how to answer, Jihagun remained silent, and the small guy acted dominantly by asking if he really did not know. The small guy eventually had enough and slammed the shovel over Jihagun's head, smacking him hard as Jihagun realized he was in this situation because of the money he had borrowed. Jihagun tried to cut a deal, stating that he was willing to pay double the amount, but the small guy raised the shovel as if he were going to strike Jihagun again, while ignoring his offer. He smacked Jihagun's head with the shovel again, leading Jihagun to realize he hadn't ended up like this because of the borrowed money, but because of something else he had done. His face brightened as if he had found the reason, and he said he had ended up like this because of the gift card resale scam, offering to pay double or even 100 times the amount he had scammed. The big guy was already annoyed that Jihagun had scammed people so many times and wanted to bury him as soon as possible so he could go get some bone broth soup. Hearing this, the small guy raised the shovel as if he were preparing to end Jihagun once and for all. However, instead of hitting him, he started to fill the pit with sand to bury him alive as Jihagun panicked and begged for his life. The big guy firmly stated that no one would come to save him despite his screaming and that he was going to die that day as he tried to light a cigar. The big guy also told him that if he somehow lived by some absurd stroke of luck, he wanted Jihagun to remember something. He asked Jihagun if he knew Rin and said this was his punishment for messing with her. He lit the cigar and stared dead into Jihagun's eyes, warning him not to even think of going near Rin ever again. The big guy was serious, mentioning that he would always be watching him and threatening to bury him without a trace if he ever caught him with her. Jihagun trembled and shivered with fear as he was told he would be cut in half and his upper and lower body would be buried separately. This cold statement and the gesture terrified him, and he screamed for his life. A few days prior, Gumbo had accidentally seen messages logged into Rin's account and was certain Rin would have taken the 500 million won. However, Gumbo's main concern was not the money, but fixing his sister Yunhwa's situation. Gumbo tried to gaslight himself into thinking he would get his money back later and opened an internet browser to distract himself, but even there, Rin had left traces behind. Her search history was filled with violent queries, such as how to avoid retaliatory murder, threatening someone with a knife, whether she would be arrested, and how to report a crime to 112 online. Gumbo told Rin that if it had not been for him, anyone else in his position who saw those messages would have helped her in the same way. With a bright gleam on his face, Gumbo generously told Rin not to thank him, but as he spoke, he noticed she was already crying. Confused, Gumbo asked why she was crying all of a sudden, and even asked if it was because of an injury. Rin continued to cry, replying that she felt sorry and guilty, and she apologized to Gumbo for his help despite everything. She even stated that she was a terrible person compared to Gumbo, while he wondered exactly what she was talking about. Instead of focusing on her apology, Gumbo was mesmerized by her beauty, even while she wept. As she cried, Gumbo's phone received a notification from the Don't Worry Money and Errand Center, including a picture of Jihagun buried in the ground with only his head visible. They mentioned they had buried him per Gumbo's instructions. To finish their deal, Gumbo said he would transfer the success fee right away and asked for their account details. As Gumbo was texting, Rin came close to see what he was doing, which startled him. Rin said she would definitely pay back the 500 million she took, but Gumbo was flustered and told her not to worry because he had already collected plenty, including interest. He showed Rin Jihagun's mobile phone, which displayed his activity on illegal gambling sites. Although there were deposit limits, Jihagun had still played several games, becoming addicted despite the fluctuating profits and losses. It was revealed that he had won 1.5 times the money, and when Gumbo checked the account receipts, he noticed they were under Rin's name. Since it was in her name, Gumbo withdrew everything. Gumbo was surprised that the illegal website was honest and joked about them questioning the ownership of the money. He told Rin he had found a bag with the remaining cash and that they had ultimately recovered more than the principal amount. Gumbo told Rin that everything she had done was now settled, but Rin remained silent as her eyes teared up at his treatment of her. Determined, Rin said she would not call it settled and promised to repay him properly as she fist-bumped him. Later, the sun shone bright over the hospital, where Yunhua drank fresh juice while pastries sat in front of her. Her bodyguard asked if that was enough for her and, while eating, told her the food was delicious and insisted she take a bite. She refused because her doctors suggested she only eat sterilized, packaged food, though she was happy to be off the IV and outside. The bodyguard felt bad eating alone, since Yunhua had bought the delicacies for him. An old lady nearby sought help, asking if they could show her how to do something since the owner was away. Both stood up to help, but the bodyguard insisted Yunhua stay seated while he assisted. He asked the woman what she wanted to eat, and the lady was astounded by his huge appearance and large ears. Yunhua told her bodyguard she was going to the restroom, and he noted it was right outside. Feeling something was off, the bodyguard wanted to go with her, but Yunhua suggested she go alone and that he should continue helping the lady. Yunhua exited the building and, wearing her mask and gloves, realized that a side effect of chemo made it hard to wait. Just as she was thinking how embarrassing it was to ask for an escort every time, a van quickly approached. She was confused as the van stopped right in front of her. Meanwhile, the bodyguard finished helping the old lady and exited the building. Wondering why Yunhua was still in the restroom, his focus shifted to a ruckus on the road where a group of men was kidnapping a woman in a hospital gown. Realizing it was Yunhua, the bodyguard rushed toward the van. As the goons tried to subdue her, one instructed the driver to run him over, but the bodyguard showed no fear and leaped toward the moving vehicle. The driver was shocked and swerved, slamming the bodyguard away. Yunhua was terrified as the van hit him, nearly killing him. Emotional, she pulled the driver's hair to try and stop the van so she could take the bodyguard to the hospital. The van moved erratically because of the commotion as the bodyguard watched it drive away. Despite being hit, he was determined and chased them on foot. Seeing a person on a scooter, he quickly removed the individual from the vehicle, apologized, and drove off, promising to pay it all back. The driver watched the huge bodyguard drive away on the small scooter. Despite the discomfort of his size, he continued his pursuit. Meanwhile, Gumbo was observing his clear skin in a mirror, wondering if his lack of acne was due to his mold-free house, healthy diet, or expensive lotion. Feeling narcissistic, he told himself that if he got any handsomer, the fame and girls would be a trouble to handle. Suddenly, the bodyguard called. When Gumbo answered, the bodyguard frantically stated that Yunhua had been kidnapped. He repeated that it was his fault for not staying by her side and explained that he had chased them on a scooter but crashed and lost them. He mentioned he had reported the incident to the police and expressed worry because the men looked dangerous. At that moment, Gumbo felt his head go ice cold. He told the bodyguard he would go there himself and asked for the coordinates via text. He held his phone so tightly he almost crushed it, filled with rage that they had touched someone they never should have, vowing never to forgive them. This triggered a memory from the past, a day Gumbo had long forgotten. After seeing an online post claiming anyone could make decent money, he once did delivery work behind his sister's back. He was excited because there was just one more job before the missions would be cleared, eventually resulting in an easy 30,000 won bonus. A routine emergency alert had stayed in his head for some reason while he was ahead of schedule. He thought that if he delivered this, the mission would be a breeze, and he considered grabbing a going-home call at that perfect moment. But as he was driving through the snowfall and cold weather, an old lady standing on the sidewalk caught his attention. She was without a sweater and was waiting to give her son a lunchbox because he might be hungry. He was surprised to see her, as she matched the description from the emergency alert he had received minutes prior about a missing lady wearing a floral shirt, black pants, and slippers. He immediately stopped his vehicle, took off his padded jacket, and wrapped it around her. He then called the police to inform them she was at the bus stop, while she continued to say that her son would be hungry. After he handed the grandmother over to the police, the food had gone cold and the delivery was late, leading him to expect a refund request from the customer, while the lady continued to ask the officers about her son. To his surprise, the customer patted his shoulder instead and said he could just reheat the food, encouraging him by saying it was fine since he was late for a good reason. Even though he missed the 30,000 won bonus, the grandmother's family visited Gumbo a few days later and gave him 300,000 won in department store gift cards as a token of gratitude. Although his sister was mad that he had been doing delivery work and told him not to ride a motorcycle, he tried to calm her down by giving her the money. This memory helped Gumbo find a way to track his sister faster than the police could by seeking help from Seoul's delivery riders. Around 3 frustrated delivery drivers were standing outside a Vietnam and Pho building, annoyed by what they considered a scam because they had been waiting 15 minutes for food despite being told the orders were ready. Their attention was caught by a message Gumbo posted on their portal about his missing sister who was abducted near a dessert shop, including the vehicle's details, and a promise of 100 million won in cash for decisive information. He even included a link to a TV news broadcast to prove the reward was authentic. The shop owner eventually came out with the food, but the delivery guys were already gone, enthusiastic about Gumbo's message. His strategy was simple: for 100 million won, no delivery driver could resist. Meanwhile, in a quiet neighborhood on the outskirts of Seoul, one of the goons who kidnapped Yunhwa at a closed-down karaoke bar was also unable to resist the offer. As the goon read the message, his boss scolded him to get moving if his job was done, as it was annoying to see him staring at his phone. The boss then instructed the thug to wait outside if he wanted his money. The thug was visibly upset that the boss was acting mighty after tossing him only 400, and he realized the boss was disposable compared to the 100 million won reward. Yunhwa was visibly upset as the boss asked her why she was giving him a death stare, claiming they had not kidnapped her but just brought her there to talk, and even telling her to leave if she felt uncomfortable. Hearing this, Yunhwa stood without hesitation and said she had nothing to say to the director. However, as she got up, a lady in a wheelchair, wearing a mask and head cover, entered the room and said it had been a while since they had met. Yunhwa was surprised to realize it was Jihye Unni. It was their first time seeing each other since quitting the firm, and Jihye asked Yunhwa if she could sit down so they could talk. Outside, the thugs passed the time on their phones, while a guard stood by the door to prevent chaos, and the director enjoyed a cigar. Inside, Yunhwa read a settlement agreement and understood that if she signed, the firm would give consolidation money to both her and Unni. She was suspicious of the director's motives and what he would gain, but the director calmly replied that she should take goodwill as goodwill and never doubt it. This enraged Yunhwa, who argued it was not goodwill but rather him paying Unni to persuade her. She yelled at him in disgust, causing the director to lose his temper as well, while Unni tried to defuse the situation. Unni literally begged, explaining she needed the money for her family because leukemia had made her own pain the least of her problems. She explained that even with insurance coverage, everything cost money and she couldn't just switch to outpatient care or be discharged until her numbers stabilized. She noted that when one person in a dual-income family gets sick, income is cut in half and hospital bills can eat up an entire salary. To cut expenses, her family had pulled the kids out of academics and moved from a jeonse to a one-room monthly rental. Unni admitted she felt like a criminal every month. Her family ran a deficit and broke down in tears, stating she never realized that one person getting sick could crush a whole family. Unhwa was shocked to hear that Unni had given up on a transplant, knowing the fatality rate would be 100% without it. A heartbroken Unni replied that even with a transplant, there was no guarantee she would live, adding that every penny should go toward her family's future rather than toward her. Unni stood up and admitted she had agreed to persuade Unhwa to sign so the firm would give her the consolidation money. Concerned for her health, Unhwa told her to sit down since it was dangerous to stand, but Unni held her hand and begged her to sign the petition for the settlement for the sake of her family. As Unni fell to her knees crying and begging, Eunhwa was completely confused about what to do, knowing as a fellow cancer patient how hard it was. Meanwhile, a stranger texted Gumbo to ask if he was really paying 100 million won in cash. Gumbo replied that he would pay the same day for decisive information. The stranger revealed he had helped bring her there because an old friend asked him to, but mentioned he never laid a finger on her. He sent his location to Gumbo and said he would open the door for him. As the bodyguard and Gumbo traveled to the coordinates, the bodyguard asked if they should inform the police, but Gumbo said it could be a false tip and that he would contact them once he verified it with his own eyes. As they arrived, the bodyguard told them to come out. The thug, who was peeing near a wall and planning how to spend the reward money, received a call saying they had arrived. He turned to see a car with a huge dent and realized they were there. The thug told them that if Gumbo didn't pay up, he would take the car and sell it, unaware that Gumbo had already informed the police. The bodyguard became enraged when the thug recognized him as the person hit by the van and mockingly said he was glad nothing had happened to him before pointing toward Eunhwa. The bodyguard snapped, ducked, and struck the thug's jaw with a mean uppercut that sent him flying. Gumbo was too stunned to speak at his bodyguard's physical prowess. After landing the hit, the bodyguard asked Gumbo if it would take more than 10 minutes for the police to arrive, and when Gumbo affirmed, the bodyguard began to warm up, stating there was plenty of time to deal with the remaining thugs. Meanwhile, the director placed the contract on the desk again, and though Eunhwa was confused and weak, she took the pen and prepared to sign, while the director watched and noted how pathetic she looked. Guard entered the gang's hideout, surprising the goons, who were excitedly waiting for their friend to return with the money. But they were shocked to see the bodyguard, remembering him from the time they kidnapped Eunhwa. The bodyguard was pissed that they had hit him with their car, but the man argued, saying that he was the one who jumped in front of it. But before he could say anything else, he was kicked right in the chest, sending him flying across the room. His friend immediately started saying that he had nothing to do with this and was innocent, being scared of the bodyguard. But the man noticed the phone he was holding, recognizing that it belonged to Eunhwa. The goon tried to return it to the angry bodyguard, saying that he did not know how he got the phone. The bodyguard took it from his hands gently, making him think that he was forgiven, but he was then immediately punched in the face, knocking him out. Gambo was shocked to see that the man had got stuck to the sofa, realizing that the bodyguard was way stronger than him. The two then moved forward, certain that his sister was here. But as they reached inside towards the room that Eunhwa was in, they saw that it was being guarded by a giant man, making it hard for them to get in. The bodyguard told Gyumbo that he would handle the man, telling him to go inside first. Meanwhile, inside the room, the gangster was trying to get Eunhwa to sign the papers. She picked up the pen, realizing that they were forcing her to do this through blackmail. But the gangster was then shocked, seeing Eunhwa cross out the paper. He asked her what she was doing, but Eunhwa just apologized to the woman, mocking the gangster with the scribbled-out contract. Eunhwa told the woman that she had thought about it, saying that they had agreed to this and pretended not to know. But just thinking about her sibling joining a company like this, she wouldn't be able to close her eyes even after she died. Her family was more precious to her than her life, so this one sign would be equally painful to her condition. She said that it was not a huge amount that she couldn't refuse, and neither was it a huge enough condition to change their life. With a settlement for only a few thousand, they were looking down on them. So she crumpled up the contract and threw it at the gangster. The man was livid, calling Eunhwa crazy. He asked if her brain could not calculate this, saying that she could not even work because she had cancer and wondered if she was going to dig up the money or if it would fall from the sky as he grabbed her by the collar. He said that if he were in her place, he would happily accept this. But Eunhwa told him that if her wanted her to agree to this badly, then he should bring her 10 billion won instead of this pocket change. Just then, Gumbo entered the room, surprising both Eunhwa and the man. Seeing her safe, he was relieved, telling her to hold on just a little, confusing the man. Reeling his punch back with the anger at how the man had dared to touch his sister, Gumbo could not forgive him, punching him in the face with the power of his bonds. The man was sent flying in the flash of an eye, surprising Eunhwa. Gumbo then asked her if she was okay, but his sister started scolding him for hitting someone and using violence. Gumbo asked if she would leave him alone if he hit her as well, but she scolded him more, asking if he was a thug now. The bodyguard then entered the room, surprised to see what was happening. Eunhwa was shocked to see him, rushing towards him as he had been hit by a car earlier. She was worried to see him here, saying that he should go to a hospital. The man just joked about the condition, bringing Yunhua to tears. Seeing her cry, Suho apologized to her, but Yunhua just said that she was worried that he had been hurt because of her. The bodyguard immediately started looking for a handkerchief, seeing Yunhua worried about him. But Gumbo was being weirded out by the sight of his blood relative getting close to someone of the opposite gender. Just then, he was shocked to see the man guarding the door approach them with a chair in hand. Gumbo shouted at them to watch out as the man swung the chair at Yunhua. The room was filled with a sickening thud as everyone stood scared. Yet Yunhua was okay, seeing that Suho had protected her with his body. The man laughed at Suho for still pretending to be okay. Suho remembered how Yunhua did not like hitting people, but he asked if it was okay to hit someone who did not seem human. The man mocked the bodyguard for saying things like a hero, telling him to come and fight as he put on spiked knucklers, saying that he was going to put him to sleep in one go, yet the man was himself knocked out immediately as we see Suho standing above him. Gumbo realized that Suho was much stronger than he had imagined, to the point where he wondered if he was a real person. But just then, Yunhua screamed, telling Jumbo to call 911 as they saw Suho fall down, understanding that he was indeed human. With what the gangsters' company had done so far, Yunhua wanted to deal with it according to the law. After consulting with experts, they said that doing it legally would take a lot of time, making Yunhua wonder if she would be alive till then. So, Gumbo decided to buy time with money. A few months later, Jun called Gumbo, saying that they were at the location, asking what important thing he needed to tell them. He then informed him that Jin was also with him, as Jin greeted Gumbo, saying that he had missed him. They wondered what was going on this time, with Jin telling Jun to ask him how much they were going to get paid. Jun told him to stop, saying that they could talk about it later, with Jin saying that he was joking. Gumbo said that he would meet up with them and tell them what was going on, saying that he was almost there himself. Jun got excited to see where he was, but as they noticed Gumbo, both of them fell silent, saying that their boss's body was missing as they stood before a new man. Gumbo finally understood what they meant, saying that he felt like his pants were a bit loose these days. He had been preparing for this for the past few months, so he had missed some time. Greeting the two after a long time as he stood before them with a much more fit body, all of the preparations were now complete. Last night, he had posted an expose about his sister's company on the community. Work environment where industrial accidents were suspected, the company's attitude of forcing resignation and agreements, the CCTV footage of his sister being kidnapped, and the contents of the agreement presented by the company were all revealed. Jun understood that Gumbo was trying to manipulate public opinion, but noted that the article itself was too content-heavy and not interesting. There were barely more than 10 comments and some recommendations because the content seemed serious, and that is why he needed their help, as the three arrived at a web cafe. Jin understood what Gumbo was trying to do, thinking they could spread the articles to other communities, but Jun told them to wait, saying that they did not know much about the community ecosystem. Just because they post something does not mean it will become a topic of conversation. Also, even if they joined some communities, they could only write if they met certain conditions. Jun knew all this through 10 years of experience in the gaming community, so if they just spread the article without any thought, it would most likely be buried. Gumbo said that he understood this, therefore he had brought hundreds of IDs that were registered a long time ago and had a high activity index. So it was not their job to spread the word, as the people he had hired were doing it already, showing the two a room filled with people all on computers, typing away at different communities. Gumbo explained that these people will be here for a month from today, and will be working in the PC cafe 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. Jin was shocked, unable to believe what he was seeing. Gumbo had taken over the entire PC cafe, but he explained that he had just rented it for a month. Jun, who was still shocked by this, asked how many people were working at the cafe, for even if he were to pay them minimum wage, the monthly salary would be insane. Gumbo explained that he was paying them $50 an hour after tax, and there was an additional fee for maintaining confidentiality. The two were shocked to hear this, becoming jealous of the rates. Gumbo asked them to lead this team for a month, managing them and replacing broken PCs, saying that he would take care of their meal or coffee orders. They had to do this for a month, and their salary would be $100 an hour per person, after tax. The two immediately knelt in front of Gumbo, saying that they would serve him well, and a comment unit was organized. They copied the articles, adding the prerequisites and turning their speech style into one that reflected the community's culture. They then made the titles provocative, keeping the content as short as possible, but still posting a link to the original article beneath it. When a post was uploaded, support accounts stood on hand to comment and recommend. By using an IP-changing program, posting multiple recommendations in the same space was not difficult, so the posts were soon pinned on the popular bulletin board. And as soon as they reached the popular bulletin boards, there was a crucial time when views were skyrocketing. Like this, they reached on the popular bulletin boards in various communities, with multiple posts that were decorated simultaneously. With that, major broadcasting networks and media outlets started to take the bait, as this issue finally reached the headlines. The company owner was irritated to see this, but no matter how much they tried, he was not going to be moved by what dogs and pigs say. Thinking that even if they barked arrogantly now, everything would be forgotten, and things would become quiet as time passed. But June and the others were not going to let that happen. Due to the nature of the community where writing was fast, to maintain firepower, they had to keep adding firewood. At this time, according to the gender of the community users, changing the material would be effective. So, when the public's attention was focused to this extent, not only in the community, but throughout the news, social media, YouTube, political forces, etc., everywhere and everyone was putting pressure on Solid Chemicals. With the large amounts of protests, ultimately the executives at Solid Chemicals held a press conference to issue an apology, including even the president of the company. But rather than being conscious of public opinion, it was an act of keeping an eye on the mood of large corporate clients. On the internet, a list of large companies that subcontracted to Solid Chemicals was circulating. Any products that involved Solid Chemicals in any way were afraid of the signs of a boycott. But it was not over just yet. For Gumbo, the price of tormenting his older sister was something that they would have to pay back even more severely as he released the personal scandals of all of the Solid executives' private lives. The chairman was now fed up, beating up the president of the company. The man said that he was sorry and was ready to take responsibility for all the problems and resign. The chairman laughed, asking if he was trying to resign and end things on a good note. If they left that one thing behind, their parting would be beautiful. The man wondered if he was talking about his watch, saying that he would be happy to give it. But the chairman laughed, asking who he thought he was. He said that the one thing he should leave behind was his wrist, telling him to leave both his wrist and watch and go. He had embezzled the company's money like eating rice, so his hand had become quite a pain for them, so they had decided to cut it off. The man begged the chairman to forgive him, saying that they were family, but the chairman told him that it was because they were family that he was letting him go with just one hand. For if not so, he would have sold him off a long time ago, saying that they will start fresh after it is done. Despite the promise of replacing executives and providing relief to injured workers, it seemed impossible for Solid Chemicals, which had lost public support, to recover its sales. All this had happened in just 1 month. Dozens of people in 1 month had managed to manipulate public opinion while commuting to and from work. And the reason the secret of this operation was able to be kept so strictly was because all of them were family members of employees who suffered industrial accidents and had become victims of this system. Also, victims of industrial accidents were not afraid of Solid Chemicals, and the reason they had spoken out was that all of their medical expenses had been paid off. And perhaps after the workers' compensation was paid, their lives would get a little better. Of course, there were still legal and labor issues remaining, but they could solve them slowly with the help of an expert. However, what concerned Gumbo more in the meantime was the closeness between Suho and his sister, seeing the bodyguard feed her with his hands. Manhwa turned away shyly, not expecting Gumbo to come at this time, something which even he regretted. He then commented on how every time he saw Suho, he was in his sister's hospital room. But Suho explained that he was just taking care of her and protecting her. However, Manhwa pointed out how he had told her that he had just come to visit. Gumbo had taken a lot of money from Lotto-chan and spent it. Nevertheless, in his life, nothing had really changed. In fact, it had actually become better, making him wonder what was actually decreasing. In a peaceful daily life, he alone was holding on to a secret fear. After some time, he would come to know what he was actually losing. It was raining cats and dogs over the entire city of Seoul as Gumbo moved back to his old house, sitting down to write a letter with his purse next to him. Gumbo had moved out of the luxury residence where a celebrity once lived because the 3-month contract was up, as back then it was more important for him to deal with his sister's situation rather than spending everything on himself. He packed all his luggage while moving out, and when June added that it was less of a move and more like traveling, Gumbo replied that this was why he said he could have done it by himself. Gumbo realized that no matter how much money he could get from Lotto-chan, that was only possible if he were alive. In other words, before he could finish handling his sister's affairs, he absolutely could not die. While Jun and Jin were excited about the home they were planning to move into, Gumbo replied that he was moving back to his old house and didn't need a housewarming party. Thus, Gumbo saved all the money he might have spent on himself, while Jun and Jin discussed what foods and snacks they should order. For a final moment, Gumbo turned back, thinking about whether he had any regrets or disappointments about what he could not do now that he had finally gotten a golden opportunity, but glancing at his luxury house, he was certain he had none. Even playing music for money, getting a new haircut, or choosing a new shirt would have once been luxuries to even dream of, and he had accomplished them all to his heart's content. The letter he was writing was for his sister, telling her that he had no regrets and no lingering attachments, and that even if he died, she should not be too sad. He wrote that he wanted her to carry his share too and included his final regards for her, but as he wrote, tears fell on the paper. Gumbo could not contain his emotions as he comprehended the whole situation, wiping his tears and wondering why he had become sentimental all of a sudden while in the middle of putting his life in order. Not knowing how much time he had left, he put the letter in an envelope, signed it for Nuna, and smiled at it as his purse continued to watch him. This was Gumbo's final preparation, so he took a bag from his closet to prepare for the actions he was about to commit, filling a closet with enough money for his sister to live on for the rest of her life. However, he realized that if he kept taking the money and then died, everything up until now would be for nothing, so he decided to use the money he had already withdrawn. Due to the recent Solite chemical incident and the situation with Unni's family, he had spent all of that money as well, but Yunhua's eyes glowed with sparkles when she saw the luxury house Gumbo had bought for her. She was mad that Gumbo chose to buy one for her and not for himself, yet she was amazed by the landscaping and the autumn leaves near the house. Even though Yunhua asked Gumbo to live with her, he refused and chose to live in the old house alone. He teared up with pride at being a responsible brother, wanting her house to be filled with happiness while not wanting to risk dying there. He requested of his purse that if he must die, he should do so without causing trouble for those around him, as dying in the old house would be a problem for the landlord. Although he could get more money from the Lotto, he refused, feeling happy to see that Lotto had evolved a lot since he first saw him. He expressed his gratitude by snuggling Lotto with a deep desire to live even one more day. Yunhua's treatment was going well. The company promised compensation for the industrial accident, and the bodyguard traveled with her everywhere. Considering their severance pay and his potential future salary, Gumbo wanted to enjoy this peaceful life just a little bit longer. At 9:41, his only thought was that he didn't want to die, but he didn't want to lose Lotto either, though he felt selfish for taking 1,001 every 29 days. While walking, he noticed a boy and his sister who reminded him of his past. The boy asked why his sister wasn't eating anything, and Gumbo watched as she said she was already full despite having only 5 spoons of food. The kid realized she had used up her meal card to buy him dinner and persistently told her they could share food from his card. It was similar to his own sister, who used to tell him she had eaten at her part-time job so he wouldn't worry. The boy wondered if the rain had stopped and asked his sister if they should run home, but as his sister warned they would catch a cold, Gumbo placed his bags over their table. Despite the awkwardness, Gumbo advised the kids that just because today was hard did not mean the future would be too, suggesting that if they continued to be kind and look out for each other, a special kind of luck would find them. He told them he knew this because he had experienced it himself, asked them to share the gift nicely, and gave them his card to get whatever they needed. After handing over the card and his umbrella, he ran away, telling them not to get caught in the rain, leaving the sisters stunned. He arrived home drenched and shivering, which made him prone to a cold, but he had no regrets. As he was removing his clothes, Yunhua called. He realized she was done with her tests and asked about the results. Yunhua's voice was shaking, which froze Gumbo, but he instantly teared up when she said she was in remission. Yunhua cried as she explained the doctors said the leukemia cells were gone and they could not see them anymore. Overloaded with happiness, Goombo ran inside and screamed for Lotto, startling him. He hugged Lotto, thanking him for saving his sister and telling him she was finally in remission. He held Lotto with delicate care, noting that if she stayed like that for 5 years, she would be completely cured, but suddenly pink fumes started to emerge from Lotto. Concerned, Gumbo placed him on the table and asked if he was okay, only to notice that Lotto was not in pain but was instead disintegrating into pink particles. Gumbo broke down, saying he had only gotten help from Lotto and was sorry he could not do anything to save him. As Lotto continued to fade, Gumbo apologized for being a terrible owner, but Lotto simply tapped Gumbo's fingers with his fin in a loving gesture before completely vanishing. A few days later, on a bright and calm day, Gumbo was lying on the floor depressed and thinking about Lotto. He woke to the sound of a bell, realizing it was the day for the gas meter reading. But when he went to the door, he found Rin. She said she was there to pay her debt, explaining she had found his place by asking Ilsok and Ah-jun, and asked if she could come inside because it was freezing. Once inside, she declared that she was completely broke and said she was there to pay him back with her body. The next day at the hospital, Gumbo was surprised to hear that his sister's cancer cells weren't completely gone, since the doctor had previously said that they were in complete remission with no cancer cells. The doctor explained that he was correct, as the test results showed that there were no cancer cells medically visible. That meant the symptoms and signs of the disease had disappeared, and the cancer cells had decreased to the point that they were no longer visible on the tests. But it did not mean that it was an absolute zero, with not even a single cancer cell left. With current medical technology, they could not detect every microscopic cancer cell. Seeing Gumbo still nervous, the doctor said that he really did not need to worry too much, for even healthy people developed potential cancer cells every day, and they disappear again. In his 30 years as a doctor, Gyumbo's sister had shown him the most astonishing pace of improvement, so if she could maintain this condition without recurrence for 5 years, she would be considered cured. Asking Gumbo to stay by her side and help her manage her health well. Hearing this, Gumbo thanked the doctor with tears in his eyes. He had heard what the attending doctor had said, but he also knew something instinctively. The fact that Lotto-chan had disappeared the moment he told it his sister had gone into remission meant that the thing that decreased every time he took money from Lotto-chan was his sister's cancer cells. He realized that probably a month ago, when he took that 1,001 from Lotto-chan, was the last moment he could withdraw money from it. And the moment when his sister's cancer cells became zero, it had disappeared, making Gumbo regret that he should have at least taken one photo with him as he cried on the subway. Back at home, Jin and June congratulated him on Eunhwa's remission. Gumbo was surprised to hear this, but they wanted to wish him, asking when he was going to take them out for a meal. Gumbo immediately recognized that the cake was made by Shine, and about the two calling him boss every time, he asked them to stop it, saying that he had blown through all the money he had. He could not be their money source or backer anymore, and from the start, their relationship was about mutual need. The two said it was fair enough, as he could not be their boss anymore since he was not paying them, so from now on they could just be real friends. Gumbo was confused, and Jin asked him if he thought they were just being ordinary people to him. They had all survived a psycho with a knife together, took down a shitty company, and actually served justice. So they were now war buddies. Plus, back then, both of them had been scammed by some stock thing and their mental states were completely wrecked. But with the 100 million won that Gyumbo had given them, they were able to pay off all of their illegal loan debt. It was thanks to him that they could live normally again, so he had literally saved their lives as well. June said that it was embarrassing, but Gyumbo was honestly a really awesome guy, saying that he was sorry for bullying him back then. The two then hugged Gyumbo as they all celebrated for the first time, not as people in business, but as actual friends. The two had then handed him a coupon and said that it was a gift for him. It was a free wish coupon from them, making Gumbo wonder why they had put their pictures on it. The two of them had also told him that they had quit what they were doing and said that they were going to study for the firefighter exam. It felt like such a random choice that Gyumbo was puzzled, but back when the two had been tasked with helping Eunhwa's friend, their children had thanked Jin and Jun for saving their family. They even gave the two a handmade drawing, saying that they were their family's heroes. It was for the first time in ages that the children had seen their mom and dad smiling like this. So after everything that had happened, the two had been deeply moved. Gyumbo was worried that the two would blow the money on some weird investment, but was surprised that they had used it in such a wholesome way. As he was walking down the street, he then noticed Rin standing there. She asked him what had taken him so long to get here, saying that she had thought that she would freeze to death. With that, she began pulling him, saying that they were late. Gyumbo told her that they did not have to do this every day. These days, every night he was seeing a princess at home. Sometime later, the two of them had become breathless. Rin said that she could not feel anything at this level, telling Gyumbo to match her rhythm and do it with her. But Gyumbo could not go on any longer, yet Rin told him to hold it a little bit more. To repay her debt to Gyumbo, Rin had been helping him with his exercise and diet with her self-taught workout routine. A few months later, the seasons changed. Gyumbo and Eunhwa, using the industrial accident compensation money from the company, had opened a healthy lunchbox shop called Gyum Eun Hwa Healthy Meals. And their main customers were cancer patients. These patients not only needed strict blood sugar control, but also had to eat even fruit or kimchi cooked, so what they could eat was very limited and tricky, and Eunhwa said that she wanted to ease that burden even a little. Fortunately, their regular subscriptions were increasing, so sales were stable. It was all thanks to the word of mouth that the industrial accident victims and their families from Solid Chemicals had spread. And not just that, but Princess Rin, who was now established as a home training and body care influencer, had introduced their lunchboxes as a part of her diet plan. And for a while, they had run out of ingredients due to high sales and had to close early, and for Gyumbo, he was now helping out his sister. Eunhwa asked if he could get the ingredients delivered, and was surprised to see that he had already brought them in. He asked why she had ordered them differently than usual, so she explained that she wanted to try out a new menu. All that dieting and exercise had really worked, as Gumbo was now slim and muscular. Eunhwa wanted to try out the new recipe, so Gyumbo asked her to close the shop and make it with him. Just then, a man came in, calling out to Eunhwa as honey. It turns out Suho and Eunhwa were still a super lovey-dovey couple, and the sweeter their relationship got, the harder it became for him to bear it as family. Gyumbo then stepped out for a bit, saying bye to the couple, and as he was leaving, he saw Rin waiting for him. They had planned to visit the gym together, but Gyumbo said that he had to skip it today. These days, he sometimes wondered if it was really okay to enjoy this peaceful and happy life. After all, he had known that this precious, priceless, everyday life of his had all started from a piece of sudden luck that had come to him one day. And that in his life, luck like that would probably never come again. So, without clinging or regret, for the rest of his life, he would be living by paying this debt of luck, so that he could become someone else's good luck. This is the end of Cheon Gumbo's story. But this is not the end of the manhwa. Lotto-chan is already on the move, about to enter someone else's life and shake things up all over again. Who will be next? Make sure to subscribe and comment down below if you want to see the next story covered.